Douluo, I'm really not a rice god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Reward. The Neglected Lingtian. Spring water is the royal garden behind the back, where the snowy knight and the concubines of the harem are usually played. The ancient trees in the garden, strange stone forestry, water around the mountains, pavilions, and corridors turn around. Among them the scenery is lingering, and the aftertaste is endless. Everyone stopped all the way, and finally came to the palace point. On the two sides of the large square steps, Jia Shilin stands, with a knife to hold the halberd, guarding the entire emperor's temple. Because of the banquet today, the 5 teams are also equipped with the 5 teams to patrol in front of the hall and guard point. Even if an assassin can pass through the defense of the gate of the palace, it is even more difficult to submerge at the Emperor Temple of the Emperor Polar Temple at the current of hundreds of knights at the end of the steps. It is a majestic hall point. There is a plaque with the words Emperor Polar in the middle point. This is the position of the Emperor's upper dynasty on weekdays to discuss national events. Today, this banquet and awarded ceremony are set to be held in the hall point under the leadership of the housekeeper. Everyone boarded the 100th steps and finally came to the Emperor Temple point. The palace located in the center of the palace is exposed to the top of glazed tiles. Just like a golden island point, the entire hall is brilliant, solemn, and gorgeous. The 2 swans on the eaves, lively, like to fly away. This large hall is supported by multiple giant pillars. 100 steps and towering golden tops are already the most significant buildings in Qian Dou city point at this moment. The gate has already opened point under the leadership of the housekeeper. Everyone entered the Emperor Temple. In turn point, the most noticeable thing, as soon as entering the palace, is the gilt chair placed in the center of the center. There is a pattern of swan wings on the back of the chair. At this time, this unique chair is the royal chair, the location of the snowy emperor. But now the snowy emperor is not present, so no one on the chair is sitting point. There are several layers of steps below the emperor chair. On this step, there is 2 times wider than the other countertops every other distance, and there are 6 wide steps. There are 6 wide steps. There are 6 levels of the title of the Qian Dou Empire, namely Wang, Gong, Hao, Bo, Zi, and Male. Among them, only the king of the king has always been eligible for the royal blood point due the degree of contribution to the heavenly Dou Empire awarded the title point. When the awarding ceremony is held, the seal will stand on the steps of the corresponding title and receive the reward of the emperor of the Dou Empire. This is also the tradition of the heavenly fighting empire inherited for thousands of years. In the center of the main hall, there is a long table case, which slows down the prepared cakes, as well as the wine, and the wine. There are also palace ladies on both sides. The 4 corners of the palace stand on the pillars of Hanbeiyu. The surrounding walls are made of white stone bricks carved. It is carved with a swan pattern that flutters wings and looks down at all things. At this moment, the princes and nobles in the hall, 2 or 2 groups with wine glasses with wine point. Someone on both sides of the hall plays a soothing music, active at the atmosphere of the scene. And at the same time, there are also many tables and chairs that provide rest. Several adults, please come in, and Her Majesty will feel it later. Internal servant said a gift to several people, and said in a respectful tone point. Then he turned and exited the hall point. In his status, he was not qualified to stay here. We go in. Everyone smiled at each other, and then entered the hall together. After entering the palace that day, the Royal College of Douluo quickly attracted the attention of all the nobles in the hall. They put down the wine cups and gathered on the people point. Soon, several nobles came forward to talk point. The students of the Qian Dou Royal College are originally dragon and phoenixes, and now they still bring back the champion glory to the empire. Even the snowy emperors value them very much. Heart point Ningfengzi came over with an elder and introduced Zai Ocean. This is Li Jiang's prime minister. His royal highness, Lingtian, has seen Li Xiangxiang. Lingtian said, sure. Enough, it is a young talent. The old man often listened to His Highness. Li Lin nodded and said with satisfaction, this is Mrs. Wang. It's better to meet. The old man has heard of this young man long ago, but now he finally saw the true face of Lushan. Although Lingtian rarely attended this type of banquet. There are constant referrals to the side of Ningfeng. In addition, they are all people on Kanzutsu Point. Talk to these courtiers and nobles. Yu Xianheng and Di Guan were very skilled. The extremely skilled nobles talked about it. They talked about laughter, and there was no panic. It can be seen that they should often participate in this type of banquet point, and the same is true of Yufeng, Graphite, Stone Mill, and Yi Lingling. Even Yi Lingling, who is silent in the team on weekdays, is now talking and laughing with the noble ladies nympho. After a quarter of an hour, the hall suddenly quietly settled. Suddenly a sharp voice came from behind the temple, and everyone put down the wine glass in an invincible, looking respectfully in the direction of the sound. Snow Knight Emperor, His Royal Highness drive. The words did not fall. Kanzutsu and Zuke in a gorgeous dress held the snowy knight, and the three slowly walked out of the right side of the throne. Qilin led a few internal servants and followed the Zuai Emperor respectfully. Behind you, see, His Majesty. I have seen His Royal Highness. All the nobles bowed to salute and respectfully. Lingtian and others invited the students who came to the dance party, as well as the teachers of the college, bending and saluting. Snowy Emperor nodded slightly and laughed. Everyone, flat body, speaking. The Emperor Zuai was sitting on the golden emperor chair, and at the same time, Qilin beckoned to internal waiters to immediately move to small chairs, put it on the left and right sides of the emperor chair. Kanzu and Zuka 2. People also sat up. His Majesty. The crowd respected, one by one, looked straight, looking at the snowy knight sitting on the throne, waiting for his speech. The snowy emperor's vision was majestic, looking around the nobles below. When I saw the sky and the crowd, a little gratitude flashed in Zuai's eyes, and then said clearly, I'm glad that you can attend the banquet today. The purpose of holding this banquet today is very simple: to celebrate the Sky Dou Royal College team won the championship of this competition for our Dou Empire. Snow Knight paused for a moment, looking at the crowd of Qian Dou Royal College, and continued to say, Qian Dou Royal College, Yu Xianheng, Du Guyan, Yi Lingling, Xiemo, Graphite Royal Wind, 1D in the 4th of the Empire of the Qian Dou Empire in the 4th, the 7 of the Soul Master Contest, the 7 of the Special 7 People Fighting Me, the Earl of the Empire, and in the scope of the Heavenly Dou Empire. Other teams who perform well. The Empire of the Empires of the Empire of Qianshu College, Kamika College, and Shrek College will provide you with 2 permanent soul rings. You are all heroes of our Heavenly Empire. I hope that you can make persistent efforts and make greater contributions to the Empire of the Heavenly Fighting Empire. Chapter 252. Advance and retreat together. A false alarm. The snowy emperor's voice just fell, and the aristocratic courtiers of the audience were shocked. After a moment of silence, there was a thunderous applause that broke out. Big pen, a real big hand. The count is the 4th class of the Empire of the Dou Empire. You must know that most of the nobles present are also counts. Just when everyone thinks that the crowd of the Royal College of Qian Dou is definitely happy when they are happy, but the actual situation is not what they think. Lingtian, why is there no you? Yu Xianheng frowned, said, if there is no brother, we can't win the championship at all. Yu Feng was also dissatisfied. Yeah, how can I not have Xianj? Isn't it His Majesty? He forgot to read it. Do you want to ask His Majesty? Xiemo proposed. Dubu. Geese, Yi Lingling. Although Wan Qi did not speak, the more frowning the brows the family behind each of them is not simple, so they value the friendship between friends more than this count. If there is no Lingtian, I will not accept this title. Yu Xianheng suddenly said, I'm the same. Me too. I go forward and retreat with Brother Xian. I when watching with everyone for themselves, they had to give up to the hands of the hands, and Lingtian's heart quickly stopped the crowd. Stop and stop. Calm down, Jillian. Rest assured. Let's go back and retreat. Yu Feng said with Lingtian's shoulder, patted his chest, together with a hammer. Lingtian glanced at Yu Feng, reminding, do you forget that I'm the prince's mansion? Like this kind of reward, maybe His Royal Highness may forget me, but in the list just now, there is no Xian brother. You. Xiemo scratched his head. What? Was the list just sealed? Lingtian asked. Xiemo replied, I have no me to the county, but his royal highness cannot forget me. So what do you think is the reason? Lingtian smiled indifferently and looked at everyone. I just said, how can there be no brother? You Qianheng and others are not dull people. When Lingtian said so, he understood it instantly. Point the kung fu. That is talking about everyone. Under the guidance of Zuai, Qian Renxue said, please ask the 7 students of the Royal College of Qian Dou to take the stage to receive the paean. Okay, hurry up. Lingtian urged the Tao. Point after knowing that Lingtian will have a title, the 7 people of the Qian Dou Royal College team will no longer delay. 2 steps. In the first 2 steps come to the empty space of the nobles in front of the nobles, and then led by a maid who served a side. Point below. The third larger big steps of these steps, the steps of the Huangji Hall, are learned. Point several people now stand on this third step, which is a place to grant the title of the count. The location here is very close to the Snowy Night Emperor, and only 3 relatively large steps are left. The grant ceremony starts when a few people stand in place. Qian said again. Point the families of Yu Qianheng and others are not simple, and they are very clear about the seized process and etiquette. So after hearing the sound of Qian, several people immediately kneeled on one knee, stroking their chests in their right hand, and slightly bowed their heads. Zuyi slowly stood up and looked at the 7 young talents from the Qian Dou Empire in front of him. His tone became serious, and he said in a deep voice, you are all the future of our Qian Dou Empire. Are you willing to be loyal now to the Qian Dou Empire, to be loyal to me, and to be the successor of the empire in the future? I swear, I will be loyal to His Majesty Zuyi of the Qian Dou Empire, her heirs and successors. I will earnestly abide by the laws of the Qian Dou Empire, perform my duties as the Count of the Qian Dou Empire, and with this oath, I will devote all my loyalty. You Qianheng and others spoke one after another and said their oaths at the same time. Point Emperor Zuyi showed a satisfied smile on his face and then slowly walked down from the high platform, came to Yu Qianheng and others, and then took the long sword that had been prepared from Qian's hand. Holding the tip of the sword, use the hilt of the sword to lightly touch everyone's shoulders 3 times. I can't find the information on Earl conferment, so I can only use the European Knight conferment method. Sorry. After doing all this, Emperor Zuai returned the sword to Qian, and at the same time, raised his hands upwards. A soft soul power was released from Emperor Zuai, helping everyone who was kneeling on the ground to stand up. Point he smiled and said, you are the future of the Qian Dou Empire. I hope you can contribute more of your strength to the Qian Dou Empire in the future. I will obey your majesty's will. When all this is over, the entire Earl conferment process will also be over. This ceremony was specially held for the 7 of them. Once the ceremony is completed, from today onwards, the 7 of them will already have the status of Earl of the Qian Dou Empire, and they will have a dedicated fiefdom of their own in the Qian Dou Empire. Point as the owners of their fiefdoms, Yu Qianheng and others can decide on taxation and other matters within their fiefdoms, and they can also have a certain number of private soldiers. This is all allowed. However, they still need to pay certain taxes to the empire. But this a little tax is a drop in the bucket to them. Point Yu Qianheng and his party walked down the steps, and the nobles below all laughed and celebrated that they had obtained noble status. The 7 members of the Qian Dou Royal Academy who won the championship in this Soul Master competition have all been awarded the title of Earl, but the awarding ceremony is far from over. After Yu Qianheng and others stepped down, Emperor Zuai turned his attention to Lingtian. Lingtian, a classmate from Qian Dou Royal Academy, has just turned 12 this year. He is the 5-ringed Soul King, the martial Soul Bingji Yanshang, and is the disciple of Sword Douluo, the elder of the 7 treasures glazed sect. Point he performed well in this Soul Master competition, and faced the Wuhandian Academy team with 3 Soul Kings in the semi-finals. He almost swept the golden generation of Wuhandian with his own power, allowing our Qian Dou Royal Academy to successfully advance to the finals. Finally, in the final against the Lingtian Palace Soul Master team, when everyone was not optimistic about the Qian Dou Royal Academy, and when the battle was on the verge of collapse, Lingtian stood up. When he was defeated, he swept through the 4 major souls with 1 sword. Point King, let all the Soul Masters in Wuhan City see the youthful style of my Qian Dou Empire. As he said that, Emperor Zuai's voice was filled with admiration. With his young body, King Li Kuanglan has made indelible contributions to win the championship of the Soul Master competition for our Heaven Dao Empire. With the power of one Soul King, he can defeat the 4 Soul Kings of Lingtian Palace. This is an unprecedented feat in our Qian Dao Empire, and even in the entire continent. Chapter 253. The different surname Wang Ju, the title Xianbing, ITN-039, S over. Perhaps, winning the championship this time proves the beginning of a new era, and is a symbol of the strength and prosperity of our Qian Dao Empire. So, after discussion between me and the prince, we decided to grant Lingtian the title of king of the opposite sex in our Qian Dao Empire. As he said that, Emperor Zhuai turned his head and looked deeply at Lingtian, who was a little stunned. His voice was deep and distant. Today, I confer Lingtian as the heavenly ice king of our Qian Dao Empire. He is also the 4th prince with a different surname in our Qian Dao Empire. I hope you will use the ice in your hand to expand the territory of our Qian Dao Empire. As soon as Emperor Zhuai finished speaking, the entire Huangji Hall of Qian Dao Palace fell into silence. Everyone looked at Emperor Zhuai with shock in their eyes. Wang Ju with a different surname, Ice King. Unlike the previous elves, Wang Ju was not named casually. Although the identity of the person who is awarded the title of king is not clearly stated, the people who can be awarded the title of king are basically of royal blood. In the long history of the Qian Dao Empire, the number of kings with different surnames can be said to be very few. There are only a handful of people in total. But today, they were able to witness with their own eyes a prince with a different surname. Ice King. The meaning behind Emperor Zhu Yi's title is not simple. Qian. It is the Qian Dao Empire. Bing. It is the spiritual sky. Did Emperor Zhuai's last words mean that Lingtian was considered by him to be the future of the rise of the Qian Dao Empire? The amount of information was so huge that everyone was stunned for a moment. At the same time, Yu Xianheng and others standing at the bottom of the steps opened their eyes wide and looked at Lingtian beside them, their eyes filled with shock. Their title is Count. On top of this there are marquis and dukes, and then there is the king of Lingtian. Moreover, the title of king is not given casually. Ice King. This Wang Ju with a different surname came unexpectedly. They knew that Lingtian's title would be higher than this, but they did not expect that it would reach the level of a king of the opposite sex. At the same time, on the other side. After a moment of silence, Ning Fengzi looked at Lingtian, slowly put away the shock in his eyes, and sighed. King Xianbing. There are heir kings with different surnames in the history of Qian Dao Empire. It seems that his majesty is far away. I value this child Lingtian far more than I thought. Douluo on the side also looked at Lingtian, his eyes also extremely shocked. Indeed, I didn't expect that China would be so valued by his majesty, but, besides being shocked, Douluo's eyes were more filled with relief. He is worthy of being his dust-hearted disciple. Wang Ju, who has a different surname, lives up to his name with Ocean's talent. At this moment, Ning Fengzi remembered something and looked at Ning Rongrong standing beside him. At this moment, Ning Rongrong looked at Ling Xiana on the side with eyes filled with admiration. Ning Fengzi shook her head helplessly when she saw this scene. Let them handle the children's matters by themselves. I hope that girl Rongrong won't get into too deep of a trap. Qian Renxue, who was sitting next to Emperor Zhu Yi, looked at Lingtian in the audience, and a smile quietly bloomed at the corner of her mouth. In the Qian Dao Empire, there is a king with a different surname. Her little boy is always the best. Then she remembered something, glanced at Ning Rongrong below, and the corner of her mouth twitched. Oh, silly spirit, this is what you told me. Everything has been resolved. At the same time, Princess Zook, who was sitting on the other side, looked at Lingtian with curiosity in her beautiful eyes. Ice King, my father actually made me the king. Although Zook has never participated in government affairs, she is still in the royal family. And she is still very clear about the weight behind a prince with a different surname. Some are happy and some are sad. When Zhu Crossing and Zhu Beng in the audience saw this scene, they couldn't help but frown tightly. Lingtian belongs to the prince. Now that he has been granted the title of king, the power of the prince's side has increased invisibly. If they want to deal with Qian Renxue in the future, won't it be more difficult than before? Brother is so confused. Isn't he the champion of a Soul Master competition? At most, it would only be a marquis. How could you just give someone a king with a different surname? Zuxing, who was complaining in his heart, didn't know that the so-called Wang Ju Lingtian with a different surname in front of him was actually his own son who had been missing for many years. What would Zuxing's reaction be if he knew the truth? Please invite King Xianbing to come to the stage to accept the canonization. Qilin glanced at Lingtian and then spoke loudly at the right time point in the huge Huangji palace. Lingtian, dressed in a white evening dress, quietly walked up the steps under the envious eyes of the nobles. Finally, it stopped at the top, on the high platform representing the king. The royal title conferment ceremony begins now. As soon as he finished speaking, Emperor Zui walked up to Lingtian and looked at the high-spirited young man with a look of relief in his eyes. Skies King Lingtian. This is the future of their Qian Dou Empire, different from the previous old canonizations. Qian Renxue also walked down and followed Zui as the crown prince of the empire. She also had to participate in the royal canonization when Lingtian was about to imitate Yu Xianheng and others before kneeling on one knee to accept the canonization. Qian Renxue suddenly raised his hand to hold him. Just when he was confused, he heard Emperor Zui. Suddenly he spoke, starting from today, Xianbing King Lingtian will meet the third level official in our Qian Dou Empire. At the same time, I will be exempted from paying homage in the future. In Qian Dou City, a palace will be given to King Xianbing, and you can choose any 3 blocks in the realm of our Dou Empire as King Xianbing's fiefdom. Speaking of this, Emperor Zui looked at Qian Renxue. Qian Renxue understood this and took Zui's place in front of Lingtian. Lingtian, I would like to ask you now, are you willing to become the Heavenly Ice King of our Qian Dou Empire? And when you are successful in your cultivation, you can open up and expand the territory of our Qian Dou Empire and promote the power of our empire. Will you live up to my Qian Dou Empire in this life? Qian Renxue's cold and majestic voice spread throughout the Huangji palace and rang in the ears of every guest. I do. As soon as Qian Renxue finished speaking, Lingtian said with a serious face, from today on, Lingtian will be the Heavenly Ice King of our Qian Dou Empire. Both this palace and my father value you very much, and I hope you can make more contributions to the empire in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, Qilin came to Lingtian with a brocade plate. The brocade plate was covered with a layer of silk and satin. There was something slightly raised underneath, but he didn't know what it was. Qian Renxue smiled and said, King Xianbing, open it and take a look. From now on, it will be a symbol of your identity. Lingtian curiously opened the red cloth and saw a badge inside. The entire body of the badge is a solid color of ice blue, and what is engraved on it is a long sword with a flash of cold light, which is Lingtian's own Wuhan Bingji sword. On the left side of the badge is engraved the word Lingtian's identity, and there is also an ice crystal swan surrounding the ice sword and the word Heaven Ice. Chapter 254 Curious Little Princess. This thing is the badge specially created for the King of Xianbing. It specially combines the principle of some soul guides. In the future, he will be the identity symbol of Xianbing King. Qian Renxue explained the Tao. Thank you, His Majesty. Thank you, Prince's Royal Highness. Lingtian put away the badge and bowed to the two and walked down the steps. No matter what the nobles below, the on the surface was smiling and celebrating. Lingtian won the King Ju identity. Congratulations to Xianj. The brother of the Shi family said with a smile. What is the name of Xianbing? Now it should be called Xianbing Wang. Yu Feng also congratulated the Tao. I did not expect that His Majesty would have to seal the king this time. If I remember correctly, you should now be the only king who still exists in the empire. Yu Xianheng also congratulated the Tao. Everyone also spoke. Congratulations to the king of Lingtian. Lingtian waved his hand and sighed. I didn't expect that my majesty would seal me. Although they won the first championship of the Dou Empire this time, they were already at most one marquis, and they were already overlord. I didn't think about it. In the end, they directly sealed themselves a throne. With the end of the Wangju book, this sealing ceremony also came to an end. The aristocracy at the scene of the Snow Night looked at the nobles present with a smile on his face, saying, the ball officially started. The Snowy Emperor's words fell, and the nobles present were sent to their respective celebrations. At the same time, the bands on the right side of the main hall rang the pleasant music again. The center of the hall dance is a communication dance. There are also some nobles who talked to Lingtian. Now Lingtian is already a hot new power of the Qian Dou Empire. They all want to mix a face in front of this new name Wang. Wang Zhangke cooperation and other matters. Lingtian's identity is also clear. The orphan adopted by His Royal Highness has no family forces behind him. There are so many seals under their men who can't operate alone. They are now good at Lingtian. Maybe there is a chance to get the right to seal the land. At that time a considerable income. With the beginning of the bull, the snowy emperor did not stay too much because of his body hug. He left the emperor temple under the help of Qilin and gave it to the prince to take care of it. The venue was not silent because of the departure of Zuai, and the nobles still celebrated happily in the hall. Zhaoshan, congratulations. Ningfeng showed a gentle smile on the corner of his mouth and said with emotion, when you first entered the Qibaoliulizang worship, he still used a tender child. He left the gate for a few years without thinking and grew into the king of the heavenly empire. Uncle Ning, even if I'm now a king, I'm still the apprentice of the teacher. Lingtian whispered. When I heard Lingtian's answer, Ningfeng smiled with satisfaction. After chatting 2 sentences, he didn't bother Lingtian too much. He turned around and talked with other nobles, and Lingtian has never been broken. The identity of Qian Bingwang still attracts these dukes. After a while, there will be several nobles who come up with them, saying hello to say hello to talk to Lingtian. The identity of the other surname king is still too rare in the Qian Dou Empire. These people want to come and talk a few words. It didn't take long for the Shi family brothers to bring their father, the Marquis of Shiquan of the Qian Dou Empire, came over. Several nobles next to Lingtian left with interest. They know that it is not a chance to talk about now. Graphite introduced. This is our father Shiquan. When I heard that my second brother was going to join the prince, he wanted to come and see you in the previous side. Zuanmo. How Shiquan, the current family chief of the Zuanwu Gui family. The appearance looks 40 or 50 years old, with a tall figure and a majestic face. According to the etiquette, the Marquis sees the king to salute. Shi Quan has seen Qian Bing King. Uncle. She doesn't have to be polite. I am Graphite. I'm friends. Lingtian said with a smile. The old man will pass. Shi Quan paused for a moment and said with emotion, in the past in Qibaoliulizang, the old man felt that the heavenly king must not be limited in the future. Leading the Qian Dou Royal College to win the championship in the Soul Master contest, and was also named by His Majesty. Uncle Shi is praised. Lingtian said with a smile. At a young age and so humble, the 2 children of Shiemo and Graphite have their own personality. In the future, I will ask Qian Bingwang to take care of it. Shi Quan said 2 words to Lingtian and finally entered the topic. Uncle, she is assured. Lingtian nodded and agreed. Thank you from the King of Heaven. A response to Lingtian. Shi Quan left with satisfaction. Immediately after Yu Feng's father, Yi Lingling's father also met Lingtian in turn, and the meaning of summarizing was similar to Shiquan. He hoped that Lingtian could care more about their children. The 12-year-old Soul King, the surname of the heavenly Dou Empire. These 2 are together. They all want their children to catch the friendship. At the same time, the little princess of the royal family, Zhu Kezheng, chatted with the noble ladies of the same age. King Qian Bing, so handsome. Yeah, there is strength and beauty. If you can marry him in the future, I don't want you to be so greedy. As long as I can see Qian Bingwang saying a word. King Qian Bing's cold look. Who dares to approach? After hearing the noble ladies around him, he was discussing Lingtian, and Zuka blinked the beautiful eyes and recalled the young man who had just seen on the high platform. It is indeed as handsome as the friends say. No one can come out of the venue. However, it looks a little cold. There is a feeling that comes a feeling that is not easy. Zuka suddenly thought that his father said just now that Lingtian had stayed in Qibaoliulizang and moved her heart. She stepped to Ning Rangrang and asked, Sister Rangrang, what do you say? What Lingtian is like? People seeing him cold, it should be terrible to get along. Lingtian. Ning Rangrang's mouth raised a sweet smile and said softly, the younger brother is a person with cold and hot inside. Don't look at him cold outside, but in fact, it is very good. Go get along. Zuke blinked a little bit. Actually, I don't know too much. You can go to His Royal Highness. Don't forget that Lingtian comes out of the prince's house. I think His Royal Highness should know the master's brother best. Ningrangrang suggested Road. Chapter 255 Zuke-039 S careful thoughts. Are you looking for the prince's brother? After listening to Ningrangrang's suggestion, Zuke raised his head to search, and happened to see Qian Renxue not far away, and quickly ran over. Brother. Prince. Zuke said in a clear voice as he ran over. Zao. Ke. What's wrong? Qian Renxue turned her head, opened her hands to catch Zuke, and asked curiously, I want the prince brother to take me to meet Lingtian. Zuke raised her little face and looked at Qian Renxue with her beautiful eyes full of expectation. Why? Does Zioke want to see him? Qian Renxue asked with a smile. There is no special reason. I just heard everyone talking about him, so I was a little curious about him. In addition, he is the prince's brother, so the prince took me to meet him. Zuke blinked his big ethereal eyes, and said coquettishly to Qian Renxue, that's right, Qian. Renxue pondered for a moment and said warmly, then I will take you to see him. He, brother is the best. Zuke happily hugged Qian Renxue. Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes sparkled with light. She raised her hand and rubbed Zuke's silver white ear-length hair, then led her towards where Lingtian was at the same time. It was rare for Lingtian to have any free time. The nobles at the banquet were all very elegant, and if they were familiar with Lingtian, they wouldn't bother them too much. At this moment, Lingtian was sitting in a corner of the room, taking a rare leisurely rest point, but not long after, he saw a road suddenly opened up in front of him, and the two most distinguished people in a normal banquet were walking towards him. His Royal Highness, Lingtian said with one hand on his chest. No need to be polite. Qian Renxue smiled gently and pointed at the girl with short silver white hair next to her. This is my sister, Zuke. She wants to see you, so I brought her here to see you. On the one hand, speaking of your age, you two seem to be about the same age. Ah, you Lingtian? Zuke blinked her beautiful eyes and asked crisply. Yes, that's right. Lingtian nodded. You are very special. No wonder they are all talking about you. Zuke blinked with big bright eyes, stared at Lingtian for a while, and then said, special? What's so special about me? Lingtian was stunned for a moment, with a hint of curiosity in his ice blue eyes. It's just that he's much prettier than them. As he said this, Zuke pointed to the powerful disciples on one side. He felt a little bit of the glances from a few people, and those powerful disciples turned their heads one after another, revealing a naturally handsome man. With a smile, they each said hello to Princess Zuke. However, this smile at this moment seemed particularly funny in the eyes of several people. Alright, Zuke said, there is no problem. Lingtian is still very confident in terms of appearance. After Lingtian and Qian Renxue looked at each other, they smiled awkwardly and then turned their heads together, no longer looking at those unlucky guys who felt good about themselves. But little did they know that they had been disliked by a certain princess. I want to be friends with you, Zuke suddenly said. Why? Lingtian asked curiously. Qian Renxue on the other side also looked at Zuke with curiosity. She also wanted to know why her cheap sister suddenly wanted to be friends with Lingtian. Could it be that this girl also? Unfortunately, there is no possibility of this happening. Qian Renxue is not worried about what Zuke will think. There is no possibility for her with her identity here, because they all like you. If they know that I have become friends with you, Susu, Lingling, and Jua will all envy me. Zuke put her little hands on her waist, her white and tender face full of pride. This is her true purpose. Forehead. Lingtian turned his head and glanced at Qian Renxue. Qian Renxue's expression was the same as Lingtian's. Neither of them expected that Zuke's reason was so simple. So, you can be friends with me? Zuke asked again, while her beautiful eyes stared at Lingtian unblinkingly. Lingtian came back to his senses, nodded and smiled. Of course. Then, can you give me something to prove that we are friends? A smile appeared on Zuke's face, and then she continued to ask, prove with, or thought. Lingtian condensed a blue ice crystal in his hand. What is this? Zook blinked and asked curiously. Lingtian handed the ice crystal to Zook and explained at the same time, this ice crystal contains my soul power. It will not melt, and it can help you block attacks from soul masters of the Soul King level. I think it can be proved a keepsake. Okay, Zook nodded repeatedly and picked up the ice crystal fondly. When Lingtian just took out the ice crystal, Zook's eyes were already firmly attracted. Girls like shiny and beautiful things. Even the royal princess Zook is no exception. The three of them chatted together for a while and the little princess Zook ran away jumping up and down to show off the ice crystals she had just received to her little sisters. This is a certificate from your friends. They will definitely envy you. When the time comes, I will definitely be the most handsome one in front of my friends. Watching the little girl jumping and running away, Qian Renxue held a glass of bright red wine in her right hand, came to sit down next to Lingtian, and asked with a smile, Xiaoshan, how do you feel? A little tired. With that said, Lingtian picked up Qian Renxue's wine glass and drank the red wine in one gulp. Qian Renxue smiled gently and said, you are now the heavenly ice king of the Heaven Dao Empire. With your talents, they will naturally join in eagerly one by one, hoping to get some benefits from you, the upstart of the empire. So, the identity of this Qian King sounds troublesome. Lingtian said thoughtfully, you just got the advantage and behaved well. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes at Lingtian and said with a smile, you know the identity of a king with a different surname, how rare it is in the Qian Dao Empire. By the way, your highness, what is my title? Lingtian asked. He still hasn't figured out why he suddenly became a king. After pondering for a moment, Qian Renxue said, it's a bit complicated to explain. I'll tell you when I get home. Yeah. Lingtian nodded slightly. While the two were sitting and talking, a noble lady in gorgeous clothes walked over. She raised her head and looked at Lingtian. Her face suddenly turned red due to shyness. Can I ask you to dance with me? The girl summoned up her courage and asked timidly. Dancing? Lingtian asked. Yes. The girl nodded and looked at Lingtian expectantly. Chapter 256. Can I invite you to dance? Lingtian looked at the expressionless Qian Renxue next to his eyes and then smiled gently and refused to say, sorry, I don't know how to dance. You should invite others. That hit disturb. Hearing Lingtian's euphemistically refusal, the girl lowered her head. Her voice was intermittent, and she ran away with a lost. While looking at the handsome men and beautiful women in the dance floor, Lingtian couldn't help thinking of himself and Qian Renxue, but he quickly gave up the idea with a smile. There are many people here. How is that kind of thing possible? Thinking of this, in the ice blue eyes, there was still a touch of disappointment. His Royal Highness, let's go back. When Lingtian's Heng was about to return to the house with the proposal, Qian Renxue suddenly said, Xiaoshan, do you want to dance? Don't want to. What's good about dancing? Lingtian paused for a moment and finally shook his head. I really don't want to. Qian Renxue asked, well, don't want to. The ceremony is over. Otherwise we will return to the house now. Lingtian proposed. Xiaoshan, I still have to deal with it. You wait here to wait for us to go back. Qian Renxue suddenly thought of something. A touch of light flashed in the beautiful eyes and asked Lingtian to leave mysteriously after 2 sentences. Lingtian nodded unknown and then poured a glass of red wine for himself. While watching the crowd in the dance floor, he made wine. After a while, Yi Lingling walked to Lingtian. Lingtian. Yi Lingling said, Lingling, is there anything? Lingtian asked the glass in his hand. I think please dance together. Yi Lingling whispered. The little hand was nervous, and the delicate face under the black veil was on the black veil. At this moment, there was a trace of crimson. Then Lingling is sorry, I won't dance. Lingtian rubbed his nose and said slightly awkwardly, I know. Yi Lingling heard the meaning of Lingtian's rejection and a lost look in the beautiful eyes. Well, looking at Yi Lingling's back, Lingtian sighed helplessly and then lifted the wine glass to continue to drink. Sister Zhu here, what did you do? How time has passed so long, and hasn't you come back yet? Just when Lingtian arrived in doubt, the beautiful music suddenly stopped at the banquet. At the same time, a servant quickly walked to the stage. The servant gave a gift to the crowd and then said loudly, "In order to celebrate the champion of the Heavenly Dao Empire won the championship of the Soul Master contest, this dinner prepares a event for the guests present, that is, the masters. Now, please choose a mask. The dance will start on time after a minute." The words just walked out of the left and right sides, and several maids were out of the hand, holding a tray with a variety of masks in their hands. After a minute, it was just 10 o'clock. The nobles present did not know that there was this arrangement at the dinner, so they were a little surprised when they heard the mask ball, but everyone quickly returned to God to choose the mask. Cam and dance. This is the most popular show of everyone's favorite shows in a banquet. So, although the people are suddenly arranged, the nobles present are happy to accept. After all, anyone wants to keep a bit of their own mystery. The nobles who were present soon chose the mask one by one, and Lingtian also chose a blue mask. Finally, a quarter of an hour came quickly. When the hourly bell rang on time, the lights in the hall were instantly extinguished. "Please, put on your masks. The dance will start in half a minute." The nobles who were already familiar with the process of the masquerade had already put on their own masks when the lights of the venue came on again. Beautiful music also sounded at the same time. The young men and women in the venue stood up and walked around at the same time, starting to look for and invite their dance partners. Lingtian in the corner was still sitting there. Although he was looking at the men and women on the dance floor, his heart was not here. Sister Zhu here, why haven't you come back yet? Almost 20 minutes have passed since just now. Normally, no matter what you go to do, you should be back by this time. Thinking of this, Lingtian couldn't help but feel a little worried in his heart. Is something going to happen to Sister Zhu? At this moment, there was a sound of brisk footsteps, and then a pleasant voice sounded in his ears, suddenly interrupting Lingtian's thoughts. "Can I invite you to a dance?" Lingtian was about to subconsciously refuse, but when he raised his head, he suddenly stopped. The person in front of him is wearing a golden palace dress, but his elegance has a bit of a worldly temperament. The white skirt meanders behind him, elegant and luxurious, and his golden hair is blowing in the wind in front of Lingtian's eyes. The headdress is a simple bun with flying fairy hair at the same time. Several full and round pearls are randomly embellished in the hair, making the hair as smooth as satin, even more soft, shiny, and moist. The beautiful eyes are full of brilliance, and the red lips are filled with a faint smile. Although she wore a silver half mask on her face, Lingtian still recognized her identity at a glance. The person who came was none other than Qian Renxue. "Sister Zhu, what's wrong with you?" Lingtian reacted quickly and asked quickly with a frown. "This is a masquerade. There will be no problem. Can stop it. The dance will be over if you don't go to the party." Qian Renxue said, and suddenly smiled brightly at Lingtian, stretched out her white jade hands in front of her, and at the same time, her beautiful eyes were as bright and clear as stars. Lingtian was deeply attracted by this scene. No longer caring about the constraints of identity, Lingtian smiled and tightly held the hand she extended. Qian Renxue smiled brightly, and at the same time she held Lingtian's arm tightly. Between her smiles, her noble look was naturally revealed, making people marvel at her elegant and graceful light. "Can I invite you to dance?" "Certainly." With only each other's reflections in their eyes, the two held hands and walked onto the dance floor together. However, when Lingtian took Qian Renxue's jade hands, behind him there was this girl in a green dress who silently retracted her arms. She wanted to invite Lingtian to dance just now, but when she saw that she was already holding hands after the two of them, the girl's bright eyes slowly turned gloomy, and finally she silently turned around and left the dance venue. But Lingtian doesn't know all this. At the top of the dance floor, a huge crystal chandelier hung from the vault. The constellation-shaped light slowly rotated, and the entire hall swayed. A rainbow was rendered in the chandelier, and then scattered into countless rhombus-shaped brilliant auroras. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257. The end of the song and the dance. Reluctant to let go. At this moment, more than half of the hundreds of nobles in the hall were gathered on the dance floor. The band was on a semi-high platform on one side of the hall, concentrating on playing a slow and graceful dance, and the nobles on the dance floor were also dancing to the rhythm. Qian Renxue took Lingtian's hand and came to the edge of the dance floor holding Lingtian's shoulders with both hands. Standing on tiptoe slightly, Qian Renxue whispered softly into his ear, "Xiaoshan, don't think about anything. Just enjoy this dance with me. I'm your dance partner tonight, and our dance is very long." Qian Renxue knew that Lingtian wanted to dance with her, and she also had the same idea. She also wanted to dance with Xiaoshan. Especially when Qian Renxue saw someone inviting Xiaoshan to dance with him. At that moment she wanted to hold Lingtian's hand and walk to the dance floor to tell everyone that Lingtian's dance partner was only herself, but she was zooking at that time and couldn't do this, so she prepared this masquerade ball to realize Xiaoshan and herself's original extravagant wish. Yes, it is a luxury. This was an idea that once seemed out of reach. Originally, with her rationality, it would have been impossible for her to do such an impulsive thing. But now I just did it. Maybe it's rebellion, maybe it's impulsive, etc. But no matter what, Qian Renxue at this moment does not regret her decision. At some point, the two of them walked into the center of the dance floor. At some point, the two of them started dancing to the music. I don't know when, all the uneasiness in Lingtian's heart disappeared, and he only focused on the beauty in front of him. Just like Qian Renxue said, enjoying the dance seriously. All the things I was worried about now no longer matter. Lingtian just stared in front of him. He only needed to look at Sister Zhu here and finish the dance with her. Then there will be another dance and another until the dance is over. Look, those two dance so well, although you can't see her appearance clearly. Just looking at her figure, the blonde girl is definitely a beauty. I think so too. She is definitely a beauty. Hiss, wait a minute. That blue-haired boy, isn't he the Sky's King? Definitely not. There are so many people with blue hair. Are they all Sky's King? I don't think so either. You all saw just now that so many people have invited Sky's King without success. How could he dance on the dance floor? Lingtian and Qian Renxue on the dance floor ignored the voices behind them. Unconsciously, Lingtian tightened his hold on Qian Renxue's hand, dragged Qian Renxue's arms from behind, and pressed against him. Observing this, Qian Renxue did not push her, but instead took the initiative to stick to her. Sister Zhu, isn't it a little too tight? Oh, Xiaoshan, someone seemed to have posted it first, right? Qian Renxue playfully blinked her beautiful eyes, with a hint of teasing smile in her tone. I only. Then did Lingtian realize what he had done subconsciously, and he rubbed his nose in embarrassment, not knowing how to explain it for a moment. Finally the song ends and the dance ends. The hand that I originally planned not to let go of is now slowly letting go. But whether it was Lingtian or Qian Renxue, both of them were a little disappointed and didn't want to let go of their tightly held hands. This beautiful young lady, may I be honored to invite you to dance with me? At this moment, a red-haired young man took the opportunity to come to the two of them and extended his hand to Qian Renxue to invite them. Seeing such a scene, everyone around could not help but be surprised. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that these two are a couple. Due to the etiquette education they received since childhood, they would never do such dishonorable things. In addition, handsome men and beautiful women are dancing together, which looks very pleasing to the eye. As long as you enjoy it, no one will disturb them without permission. Besides, the people who are qualified to attend this banquet are of high status. Who knows what kind of background the person he accidentally offended will have behind him. So this young man is either a fool or his status is extremely noble. Although the red-haired boy is a bit arrogant, he is not stupid, so he can only have a noble identity. So noble that he can ignore the identity of anyone in the palace. This quickly attracted the attention of many people, and everyone wanted to see how the couple would fight back. At this moment, the young man walked to Qian Renxue and moved slightly to the side. Standing there was Lingtian. He tried to squeeze Lingtian away with such a small move, but he overestimated his own strength and underestimated Lingtian's power upvoted point. But it didn't move at all. This is probably what it feels like when a worm shakes a big tree. Not only did Lingtian not push away as expected, the red-haired young man was instead invaded by the ice power that Lingtian quietly released, and the cold feeling made him shiver. But despite this, the red-haired young man still did not give up the idea of inviting Qian Renxue. Beautiful lady, what do you think? This spontaneous arrogance and this familiar voice made Qian Renxue feel disgusted in an instant. She frowned slightly and couldn't help but think of someone with this attitude. He should be that of her cheap brother. It seemed that he was still enjoying his life too much on weekdays, yet he bothered her and Ocean at this time. It's time to find something back. Something for him. Cherish these few moments. After all, he doesn't have much time left. Just when Qian Renxue was about to open her mouth and chase the red-haired young man away, Lingtian domineeringly held Qian Renxue tightly in his arms, and at the same time, he raised his shoulders and pushed the red-haired young man away. She's not free. At the same time, the music started playing again, and Lingtian held Qian Renxue's jade hand and danced again. Different from the graceful dance before, Lingtian at this moment seemed to be demonstrating, taking the dominant position and leading Qian Renxue to rush forward, then suddenly braked and stood in front of the red-haired young man. At the same time, he held Qian Renxue with his right hand and tilted her upper body back, displaying her in front of everyone. Then, following the changing rhythm, Lingtian took Qian Renxue back into his arms again. This series of movements tells everyone this beautiful golden flower belongs to him and can only belong to him. Others are not qualified to dye it. The red-haired young man standing on the sidelines was in a very unhappy mood at the moment. He looked angrily at the two people dancing on the dance floor with a look of jealousy in his eyes and drank the red wine in the glass in one gulp. At the same time, I silently figured it out in my heart. This is the Qian Dou Imperial Palace. This is his Prince Qian Dou's territory, and it's not a place where anyone can act recklessly. Chapter 258 Familiar Earrings. When he finds out his identity, he must teach them a lesson. However, Zhu Beng, who feels good about himself, doesn't know yet that he has been written down in Qian Renxue's notebook, and his good days will come to an end. When the dance is over, don't talk about revenge. When the time comes, pray for yourself first. The two of them quickly put the incident behind them. At this moment, Lingtian and Qian Renxue were dancing on the dance floor. He was not very skilled at first, but he continued to show off and perform various difficult moves again and again. Ocean, who did you learn these dance steps from? I just watched it on the sidelines for a while, and I feel like it's not difficult to learn it. Learn now until now. You can understand it this way. Although Lingtian is a beginner, when Qian Renxue is together, there is no awkwardness at all. Instead, the graceful dancing looks like a perfect understanding, as if the two of them should be like this. The two of them were still dancing on the dance floor, but Lingtian was a little clumsy in the dance moves he was trying to learn and sell. Next, how should I dance? Aren't you learning now and selling it now? But that's all I'll learn just now. Follow my rhythm, pay attention to adjusting your body, and then slowly coordinate with the music. Qian Renxue whispered a reminder against Lingtian's ear. At the same time, she turned around and cleverly took back the initiative. Under her active guidance, Lingtian's dance steps slowly found their rhythm, and the two people's dance steps continued to intersect, and also showed more of her elegance and beauty. Although Lingtian's dance steps are a bit stiff, they are generally harmless at this moment. At the edge of the hall, two girls were looking at the two people on the dance floor with envy. They also wanted to dance to a song like the blonde girl. But they knew very well that this was impossible. Lingtian and Qian Renxue were completely immersed in their own rhythms and ignored the looks of others. When the tune became slow, the two people's movements also slowed down with the rhythm. Looking at Lingtian, who finally breathed a sigh of relief, Qian Renxue showed a smile in her beautiful eyes. It seems that her Ocean is not only talented in cultivation, but also has amazing talent in dancing. Although she has her own lead, she, as a beginner, can keep up with her own dance steps, which is already very good. You must know that she has extremely high attainments in dancing. Sister Zua, what's wrong with you? Looking at Qian Renxue, who suddenly smiled like a flower, Lingtian was inexplicably confused. It seemed that his actions just now were not wrong, right? Xiaoshan, it seems that your dancing still needs to be improved. When the conversation changed, Qian Renxue smiled again and said, but considering that you have only just mastered this dance, it is already pretty good that you can dance to this level. Sister Zua, shouldn't you praise my talent? Don't be too happy. There are still a few more actions to come. A hint of cunning flashed in Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes, and then she suddenly made a big pirouette. Lingtian also caught the action in time, creating a perfect dance performance point in the main hall. I'm afraid you won't be able to find any more outstanding dancers than them. The two danced on the dance floor, and Lingtian, who gradually became more proficient, became more comfortable, and could even communicate with Qian Renxue's temples. Finally the music died down, and the two stopped their long dance point, because one of them is a soul saint and the other is a soul king. Their physical strength is stronger than that of ordinary people. The dancers on the dance floor changed group after group, and they were the only ones who could dance continuously from beginning to end. Not only did I finish dancing, but my face didn't turn red and my heart stopped beating. The nobles on the sidelines couldn't help but applaud these two people with admiration. After the dance ended, the two of them were satisfied. Qian Renxue quietly left the dance floor, and when she returned to the hall again, she was already the imperial prince King. This masquerade also announced its end point. When the lights came on again, all the nobles in the venue had taken off their masks. How was the dance? Xiaoshan? Qian Renxue, who had changed back into men's clothes at this time, walked towards Lingtian's seat with a smile. Very good. Lingtian chuckled. Then the two of them sat in the corner of the hall and started chatting with each other. At this moment, a soft voice suddenly sounded. Your Highness, why don't you go dance? Qian Renxue and Lingtian turned their heads at the same time and looked towards the stairs. They saw a graceful and beautiful woman holding a glass of red wine, walking slowly and elegantly towards their position. Looking at this beautiful woman, Lingtian was slightly surprised. At first glance, this person seemed to be 27 or 8 years old, but her eyes seemed to see through everything in the world, which was definitely not comparable to that of a 27 or 8-year-old woman. The silver palace dress looks so perfect on her body. In terms of temperament, even Qian Renxue is inferior to her. Among the women Lingtian has seen, only Bibidan can be expected to compare. The difference is that she doesn't feel the same pressure as Bibidan. But the noble temperament is no less impressive. Moreover, there is no soul power fluctuation in this woman's body, so she is obviously not a soul master. King, I have met Aunt Yuhe. Qian Renxue bowed slightly and introduced to Lingtian. Xiaoshan is Tang Yuhe, the master of Yuxun. You can call Aunt Yuhe the same as me. Lingtian, I have met Aunt Yuhe. Lingtian saluted. Your Majesty, there is no need to be polite. This should be the Ice King conferred by His Majesty. Tang Yuhe smiled slightly and looked at Lingtian with her beautiful eyes. Tang Yuhe's first impression was good with her extraordinary handsome appearance. However, there are some shortcomings in etiquette. But this is also based on the perspective of Tang Yuhe, an etiquette expert. Lingtian was pretty good at etiquette, and compared with all the nobles present, he was ranked in the middle. Thank you for your Majesty's love, Lingtian said humbly. Not bad. Tang Yuhe nodded slightly and said in invitation, this is Yuxun's token. If you have time, you can come and sit with us at Yuxun. Lingtian, thank you Lord Tangzuan. Lingtian put away the token and put his right hand on his chest. I won't disturb you two anymore. Tang Yuhe smiled, then turned and left. When she turned around, she vaguely saw an earring, which gave Lingtian a familiar feeling, but before he could take a closer look, Tang Yuhe had already walked away from the two of them. Lingtian stared at Tang Yuhe's back with a thoughtful look in his eyes. That earring feels so familiar. No, I must have read it wrong. With the identity of the old man, how could he have anything to do with Tang Yuhe? Thinking of this, Lingtian shook his head, and as soon as he came back to his senses, Qian Renxue's call rang in his ears. Chapter 259. Is there a mistake? Zhu Crossing is my father? Xiaoshan, your Highness, what's wrong? Lingtian turned his head and asked, what's Wrong. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes at Lingtian and said, I've been calling you for a long time, but you always looked absent-minded. What were you thinking about just now? No, nothing. Lingtian shook his head, thinking it was because he was dazzled and didn't think about the problem just now. Then, why do you keep staring at Master Tang Zuan's back? Qian Renxue glanced at Lingtian and said with a hint of disgust in her tone, I'm just a little curious. Lord Tang Zuan's soul power level is obviously very low, but the nobles present treat each other with courtesy. How could she, an ordinary person, have such a status in the Qian Dou Empire? Lingtian asked casually. He excused himself with a reason. So, that's what happened. Qian Renxue had no doubts and patiently explained Tang Yuhua's identity. The Tang of Master Tang Zuan is the Tang of the Haotian sect. Her identity is the biological sister of the Haotian sect of this generation. Although the Haotian sect has been retired for many years, it does not mean that they have completely disappeared. So although she does not have her soul, her power level is only level 9, but because she has the support of the Haotian sect and the special ability of her Wuhan noble circle, Yuxun, the aristocratic etiquette academy, has been recognized, so all the nobles in the entire empire will treat her with courtesy. Treat each other. I see. Lingtian nodded, pretending to be surprised. Keep the token she gave you. Maybe you'll have a chance to use it in the future. Qian Renxue paused for a moment, then looked at Lingtian and said thoughtfully, I'm not going to learn etiquette. Lingtian shook his head and said, whoever wants to learn such boring and useless things, it is impossible for him to learn it anyway. That's not certain. Qian Renxue said meaningfully. If Xiaoshan's identity as the crown prince is confirmed, the study of aristocratic etiquette should be put on the agenda given his age point. When the time comes, I really have to go to Yuxun to study for a while. Impossible. Impossible in this life. Lingtian shook his head and said decisively. Qian Renxue chuckled a few times and did not argue with Lingtian. Anyway, when his identity is announced as a royal child, noble etiquette is a compulsory course, and he must master it, even if he doesn't want to learn it. Let Xiaoshan hypnotize himself first. The time passed very quickly as the two talked. During this period, other nobles also wanted to talk to Lingtian, but when they saw His Highness the Crown Prince beside them, they all backed away silently. At about 12 o'clock in the evening, this grand dinner finally came to an end. After Qian Renxue came on stage to deliver a speech at the end of the dinner, all the nobles in the Qian Dou Palace left the stage one after another under the leadership of their attendants. After everyone basically left, Qian Renxue and Lingtian also left the palace. After saying goodbye to Ning Fengxi, Yu Xianheng and others, Lingtian followed Qian Renxue into Zuling's carriage and slowly returned to the prince's residence. As the two chatted and laughed, the atmosphere was very happy along the way. Xiaoshan, after you return home later, come to the study with me first. Qian Renxue suddenly said. What's the matter? Lingtian asked curiously. You will know when the time comes. Qian Renxue shook her head and did not explain the specific reason. Lingtian saw this and didn't ask any questions. Wheel and wheel, wheel and wheel. After an unknown amount of time, the carriage finally stopped in front of the prince's mansion. As soon as they returned to the mansion, the two of them walked straight through the atrium, entered the backyard, and returned to the study. At the same time, Qian Renxue also transferred all the servants out of the inner courtyard. Crunch. Qian Renxue closed the door tightly and asked Chen Zi to guard the courtyard. And it is strictly forbidden. No one is allowed to enter without her order. So nervous. What on earth is going on? Looking at Qian Renxue's series of actions, Lingtian couldn't help but become more curious about this matter. Qian Renxue took a deep breath and said, this matter is related to your identity. My identity? Lingtian was slightly stunned. Xiaoshan, do you still have your swan jade pendant? Qian Renxue suddenly asked. Well, I have always kept it in the phoenix ring. Lingtian nodded and took out the white swan jade pendant. Qian Renxue asked softly. Xiaoshan, you should know by now what the martial spirit of the Qian Dou royal family is, right? Sky Goose. The martial spirit is a swan. The originally doubtful thoughts in his heart seemed to be confirmed, and Lingtian subconsciously clutched the swan jade pendant tightly in his palms. Well, the martial spirit of the Qian Dou royal family is a swan. So before every royal child is born, the royal family will specially use the unique snow crystal mine to create a jade pendant, engraved with the Qian Dou Empire's exclusive swan pattern and the royal child's yami. Just like the Zuking I replaced, he also wears such a jade pendant. When Qian Renxue said this, she handed her jade pendant to Lingtian. Lingtian raised his hand to take the jade pendant and compared it carefully with the jade pendant in his hand for a moment. He found that the two jade pendants were of the same material and specifications, but the name on the jade pendant was King. After a moment of silence, Lingtian put down the two jade pendants. So, Sister Zua wants to say that my identity is related to the Qian Dou royal family? Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue and his tone was unexpectedly calm. Regarding my own identity, I have learned a lot over the years. The broken swan martial spirit and the swan jade pendant. This series of clues made Lingtian already guess about his identity. He must be related to the Qian Dou royal family. Therefore, after hearing Qian Renxue's remarks, Lingtian, who had already speculated, reacted relatively calmly. In fact, life experience is no longer important to Lingtian. 13 years, even if they find their biological parents. What can Lingtian do? Besides, compared to his identity as the reincarnation of the ice god, the current background of the Qian Dou royal family does not surprise him. Qian Renxue nodded and said slowly, you are a bloodline of the royal family of the Qian Dou Empire, the only son of Prince Zuxing, Zuclan. Lingtian, I am Zuxing's son. Lingtian pointed at himself and looked at Qian Renxue dumbfounded. Is there any mistake? Zuxing is really my father? He can understand the bloodline of the Qian Dou royal family, but why is he the bloodline of Zuxing? It's definitely wrong. There must be a mistake somewhere. This is unscientific. Over the years, he had inquired in various ways, but he had never heard of Zuxing having a child. Was it a mistake? How could he be Zuxing's son? Lingtian couldn't help but ask, Sister Zua, is this a mistake? No, you are the only son of Snowstar. Although you have not awakened the royal swan martial spirit, maybe because of the mutation of the martial spirit or other reasons, it is absolutely true that you are the only son of Prince Snowstar. Qian Renxue shook her head and said seriously. She thought that Lingtian could not accept the identity of the royal family, so she explained it again. Me, Zuxing's son. Lingtian was slightly startled, pointed at himself and said, Qian Renxue then nodded lightly. Lingtian quickly interrupted Qian Renxue's words and asked, wait a minute, Sister Zua, why have I never heard that Zuxing has a son? That's because Zuyi and the others suppressed you. When you were just born, you were taken away by our Wuhan palace people. The royal family couldn't find any trace of you. Is there any conclusive evidence in Wuhan? I want to bring you into confrontation, so I can only suppress this scandal. After Qian Renxue paused for a moment, there was a hint of apology in her beautiful eyes, and she said, Ziotian, actually regarding your identity, I had already investigated it clearly on the day you entered the prince's mansion, but at that time I wanted to take advantage of it. Your identity was to deal with Zuxing, so I didn't tell you the truth. I'm sorry that I kept it from you for so long, and didn't tell you until today. In fact, she had wanted to tell Ziotian about this for a long time, but taking Lingtian away was more for profit, and all the time was spent together during this period. In addition, the reason why Lingtian lost his parents' company was also because of the involvement of Wuhan Palace. They had to wait until now to tell Lingtian. Then, who took me away? Is he still in Wuhan Hall now? After a moment of silence, Lingtian suddenly asked, no. Qian Renxue shook her head and said, no one can find any trace of them. Since they took you away, all of them seem to have disappeared out of thin air, and not one of them has been found. Ziotian, I'm sorry. While speaking, Qian Renxue lowered her head in guilt. One is for his own selfishness, and the other is because Wu Hundian took away Lingtian and caused him to lose a complete childhood with a family. Sister Zua, you don't need to apologize. Lingtian stepped forward and took Qian Renxue into his arms. Ziotian, if I hadn't concealed it at the beginning, you might have recognized your biological parents a long time ago. Qian Renxue was buried in Lingtian's arms, her tone full of self-blame. What happened back then had nothing to do with you. Why do you need to blame yourself? Lingtian shrugged and said in a calm tone, but, Wuhan Palace, before Qian Renxue could finish speaking, Lingtian gently raised Qian Renxue's head. The icy blue eyes looked directly into the panicked purple eyes and said softly, this matter has nothing to do with you in the first place. Wuhan Palace is Wuhan Palace. You are you, and the you I like is not Wuhan Palace. Besides, if there hadn't been Sister Zhu here back then, I wouldn't be here now. No matter what your original purpose was, I only know that our current relationship is true. The group of people from Wuhan Palace have now disappeared. Although he is still a little dissatisfied with Wuhan Palace's behavior, he does not intend to pursue these matters for the sake of Qian Renxue. As for the Qian Dou royal family, as long as nothing happens on Zuxing's side, that's fine. This is not Lingtian Baiyanlang. The main reason is that he has no feelings for the Qian Dou royal family, and the only thing that can be related to him is his royal bloodline. If Qian Renxue is in charge of Wuhan Palace in the future, then this matter will disappear. But if it weren't for Qian Renxue, then this matter would be a different matter. Lingtian would have to talk the talk, and a reasonable explanation would be needed for this matter. All in all, the future relationship between him and Wuhan Palace depends on Qian Renxue. Remember that I promised Sister Zhu, as long as you need me, I will always be by your side. This sentence will never change. Lingtian gently stroked Qian Renxue's long and smooth hair. Although Qian Renxue was almost the nearly perfect figure, fit tightly with him, but at this moment, there was no hint of charm in his heart. His eyes were extremely serious, which was his solemn promise to the lonely girl in his arms. As long as she needs it, he will be by her side. He will help her, whether she wants the Heaven Dou Empire or the Spirit Hall. He will accompany her every step of the way. Ocean, Qian Renxue's eyes were slightly red, her hands were around her waist, and she buried her head tightly in the arms of her sweetheart, as if she had found a harbor to rest in. All the worries in her heart dissipated at this moment. The two hugged each other like this, and didn't separate for a long time. Zhu, hold still, let's see what Zhu Yi's arrangements are then. Qian Renxue picked up a strand of ice blue hair, and played with it in her hand. That's fine. Lingtian breathed a sigh of relief. Although Zuxing is his biological father, he doesn't want to recognize his father so quickly. By the way, Lingtian thought of today's reward and asked, so your majesty made me king today. It should be for this reason, right? Well, otherwise you still think that, by leading the Qian Dou Royal Academy to win the Soul Master competition, you can really be awarded a king with a different surname. That is rare in a century. Qian Renxue smiled with a smile on her face. A rare touch of playfulness. But he is very good at planning. He is truly worthy of being the leader of a country. Lingtian nodded, then looked at Qian Renxue's pretty face, changed the subject, and said with emotion, but that's fine. Once my identity is revealed, your only opponent in the court will no longer exist. He will be gone. With Zhu Crossing's support, coupled with my current status as Xianbing King, no matter how ambitious Zhu Beng is, he will not be able to pose a threat to your position as heir. Zhu Beng, is he a threat? A look of surprise appeared on Qian Renxue's pretty face. Don't underestimate him. This guy's not as simple as he appears. Lingtian reminded. Although Zhu Beng has always acted like an arrogant playboy in front of everyone, in fact this guy's not simple. In the original work, he has always hidden his own calculations, and he has a deep understanding of Qian Renxue's disguise in Zuking's heart. Also full of eggs, and the reason why he pretended to be a dandy was because he knew the reason for the death of his two brothers, so he used his identity as a dandy to protect himself. He also used his own methods to persuade Prince Snowstar to stand for him, and at the same time, he used his own perfect disguise. The two of them were secretly building up their strength, waiting for the opportunity to overthrow Qian Renxue. Chapter 260. In the original work, the Shrek 7 monsters were expelled from Qian Dou Academy because of Zhu Beng's handiwork. You must know that the three major educational committees of the Qian Dou Royal Academy at that time were actually Qian Renxue's people, and they supported the prince. The reason why Zhu Beng brought Prince Zhu crossing here was because he had seen the Shrek 7 human potential. In order to prevent Qian Renxue from pocketing the Shrek 7 devils, the Shrek 7 devils were directly expelled from Qian Dou Point, and after they were expelled from Qian Dou Royal Academy, they naturally would not lose their temper with the playboy, but instead directed their anger at Qian Dou Royal Academy and Prince Zhuxing. This not only achieved Zhu Beng's original purpose, but also was perfect. Pick yourself out of it. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. From this, we can see that Zhu Beng is anything but simple, especially in terms of scheming. He perfectly inherited Emperor Zhu Yi's plan. If it weren't for the appearance of Qian Renxue, or even if the other two princes were still alive, the position of Crown Prince of the Qian Dou Empire would most likely fall into Zhu Beng's hands. There has never been a chance to mention this matter before, but now that Avalanche is mentioned, Qian Renxue must be alert. Ignoring this guy can easily lead to a big mistake, isn't he just a dandy? Qian Renxue said, with a hint of disdain in her eyes. Sister Zhua, if you think so about Zhu Beng, you just fell into his plan. Lingtian shook his head and leaned on Qian Renxue's shoulder and said softly, Is there something wrong with Zhu Beng? Qian Renxue frowned and turned her head and asked, how could Zhu Yi's son be so simple? The dandyism he showed was just a disguise that he wanted you to see. Sister Zhua, you can think about it carefully. Is it true that not long after the death of the second and third princes, the people in the empire, there have been constant rumors that Zhu Beng is a playboy and cannot be used in a big way? Lingtian said softly. Qian Renxue pondered for a moment, then suddenly slapped her forehead and said in annoyance, what you reminded me is really what you said. Not long after the death of the third prince, rumors began to spread throughout Qian Dou City that Zhu Beng was of the news about a dandy was quickly made known to everyone. Even I was preconceived because of this, and always regarded Zhu Beng as a real dandy, and did not take him seriously. This is Zhu Beng's plan. Lingtian nodded and continued. Zhu Beng disguised himself and even surrendered. In fact, he just wanted to divert your attention. In fact, he had already developed a plan in secret. They have their own forces, and my Zhu Crossing should also be among them. However, they are all stationed as Zhu Crossing on the surface, so Sister Zhu here, you didn't notice it. I see. I'm just wondering how a prince like Zhu Beng could sink to such a low level. If it's a disguise, that would explain it. Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes revealed a hint of surprise. It looked like this. I have already figured something out, but don't worry about this now. With me between them, there will definitely be cracks between them. Even if Zhu Crossing wants to continue to help Zhu Beng may not believe in him as before. He is a smart man. At that time, he can only choose to join our camp. I think this is what His Majesty means. To use my identity, to make Zhu Beng retreat and give up his plan, to compete with you for the throne. Lingtian guessed. Then, do you think I should let Zhu Beng go? After a moment of pause, Qian Renxue turned her head and looked at Lingtian. Of course not. With Zhu Beng's intelligence and ambition, staying here is definitely a hidden danger. Besides, your status is special, and there is no room for carelessness in this Zhuoqiang. But now that Zhu Yi is here, we can only gradually cut off his wings. Other matters must wait until you ascend the throne before making plans. Lingtian analyzed. Qian Renxue then nodded lightly and said, that's what I plan to. Speaking of my identity, I have helped you a lot this time, so does Sister Zhu want to express my gratitude? Lingtian lowered his head and looked at the beauty in his arms with a slight smile. What expression do you want? Qian Renxue waited for him and asked. Lingtian pointed to his lips. Qian Renxue blushed and instantly understood what Lingtian meant. She was as shy as an ostrich, hiding her head in Lingtian's arms and neither refusing nor agreeing. So, has Sister Zhu agreed? Lingtian approached and asked softly. You, please close your eyes first. Qian Renxue raised her head from Lingtian's arms and whispered as softly as a mosquito. Before she could finish her words, her cheeks were already stained with two blushes. Seeing this rare and shy Qian Renxue, Lingtian's lips curved into a smile. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes at Lingtian and said angrily, if you don't close your eyes, this matter will be over. Shut up. Shut up. I'll close my eyes now. Qian Renxue's white jade hands caressed that handsome face point for a moment. I felt emotional. Time flies so fast. In the blink of an eye, 6 years have passed. In his memory, he was a skinny little boy who only reached his waist, but now he is a handsome young man who is half a head taller than himself. Fortunately, the boy belongs to her. She likes him, and he also likes her. Qian Renxue took a deep breath, put a pair of jade hands around her neck, and then raised her snow white jade neck. At the same time, she closed her eyes and stood on tiptoes, her pink lips slowly approaching Lingtian. At that moment, Nephrite fell into my arms. Lingtian only felt that his lips were covered with a layer of fragrant and sweet softness. When I opened my eyes, I saw an unparalleled, beautiful face so close at hand, and a lovely blush on my neck that was as white as snow. Different from before. This time Qian Renxue took the initiative to kiss, looking at his family members, hugging his neck tightly, feeling the warm scent lingering in his nose. Even though he has kissed him many times, the strange feeling still makes Lingtian want to stop. After a long time, the lips parted. "Ah, you satisfied?" Qian Renxue let out a sweet sigh and prepared to end the kiss. Woo. But at this moment, a smile appeared on Lingtian's lips, and then he put his hands around Qian Renxue's waist. Taking advantage of Qian Renxue's surprise, the two pairs of red lips touched together again. But this time, it was Lingtian who took the initiative. Suddenly attacked by Lingtian, Qian Renxue's body suddenly became stiff. This guy actually attacked me again. Qian Renxue wanted to push Lingtian away, but when she put her hands on her chest, she stopped reluctantly. Chapter 261. Do you still want me to let you stay here? Forget it. Just indulge this guy for the last time. Thinking of this, Qian Renxue put down her struggle. The originally stiff body gradually softened. Lingtian noticed this. A smile appeared in his eyes, and then he launched an attack, leading Qian Renxue to deepen this mouth. Under his leadership, Qian Renxue became more and more devoted. Her eyes blurred. His body couldn't help but stick closely to Lingtian. A wonderful feeling surged in the hearts of the two of them, and neither of them wanted to end this wonderful feeling prematurely. After a long time, the lips parted. Lingtian still held Qian Renxue's slender waist, his ice blue eyes full of tenderness. Maybe this is the so-called love. No matter how many times I have experienced it with Qian Renxue before, every time I kiss together, it still makes my heart flutter. Qian Renxue's eyes were as charming as silk, and she rolled her eyes at Lingtian. "You little bastard, you know how to bully me." Looking at Qian Renxue's red cheeks, Lingtian pecked the corner of Qian Renxue's mouth again and said, "Sister Zua is so beautiful, I can't help myself." Being attacked by Lingtian again, Qian Renxue raised her eyebrows, bit her silver teeth and said, "Are you coming again? It's not over yet." That's wrong. I won't dare to do it next time." Lingtian, who knew he had taken advantage, laughed, and at the same time, grasped the jade hands that were about to pinch him. "Don't do this again." Qian Renxue wrinkled her nose and took out her hands. Yeah, I will never dare to do that again." Lingtian nodded repeatedly. Snort. Qian Renxue turned her head away from Lingtian. Regarding this type of issue, nothing said by Lingtian is worthy of belief. She had already taken the initiative to kiss him, but she still went one step further. Although that feeling is quite good, it is a matter of principle. Obviously there is nothing wrong with his education, but why is Xiaoshan's character so rogue? There is no problem on my side. There must be something wrong with the Kibao glazed sect. Well, it must be the Kibao glazed sect. It's all their fault for bringing our innocent little Qian into trouble. If I had known, even if I had brought Xiaoshan with me, I wouldn't have been able to send Xiaoshan to the 7 treasures. Glazed sect. Not only did our little god teach bad things, but he also got the old fox's attention. Annoying. Fortunately, Xiaoshan was determined and did not let the old fox succeed. Lingtian looked at the stunned Qian Renxue, leaned over and asked curiously, "Sister Zua, what are you thinking about?" "It's not all because of you." Being interrupted by Lingtian, Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes widened, and she said angrily, "Because of me." Lingtian pointed at himself, feeling dumbfounded for a moment. "What? You're not convinced?" Qian Renxue glared. No, Sister Zua is right. It's all my fault. It's all my fault." Lingtian waved his hands quickly. Snort. "Qian Renxue snorted, glanced at the sky outside the window, and urged, "It's getting late. Go back to bed quickly. Don't you have to go to the Seven Treasures glazed sect tomorrow?" No. Lingtian responded, looking at Lingtian, who was motionless. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes and said, "If you don't leave quickly, now that you know it, do you still want me to keep you sleeping here? It's not like we haven't slept together before." Lingtian muttered softly, "What did you say?" Qian Renxue raised her eyebrows and looked at Lingtian with an unkind expression. "No, it's nothing. I'm going to go back to sleep first. See you tomorrow," Lingtian said as he suddenly came forward and with lightning speed kissed Qian Renxue on the cheek again and then ran away without looking back. "Lingtian, sister. Zua, see you tomorrow. This is no joke. If I run a step slower, the consequences will be disastrous. You little bastard. You only know how to sneak attack." Qian Renxue looked at Lingtian's retreating back. Her jade hand gently brushed the corner of her mouth. Although there was a bit of embarrassment in her eyes, there was more of tenderness. She doesn't hate this feeling. But despite this, Qian Renxue felt that she still had to fight back. At the very least, the initiative must be in your own hands. In the blink of an eye, the moon sets and the sun rises. Although it was the first day back home, they prepared breakfast as always. After a quick breakfast, the two of them headed to the Qibao glazed sect. The Qibao glazed sect is not far from Qian Dou city, and they arrived at the sect in less than an hour. Lingtian and Qian Renxue stepped out of the carriage. When the crown prince of Qian Dou Empire and King Xianbing arrived, the Seven Treasures glazed sect naturally treated them with great ceremony. After receiving the news, the person responsible for welcoming them at the gate of the sect was Ningli, a direct disciple of Douluo. "I have met His Highness the Crown Prince, King Xianbing." Ningli saluted the two of them. "Senior brother, there is no need to be polite, just keep doing things as usual." Qian Renxue nodded, and Lingtian walked forward and said hello with a chuckle. "I didn't expect that. When I said goodbye to Shrek Academy, my junior brother would already be the Sky's king of the Qian Dou Empire." Ningli patted Lingtian on the shoulder and said with emotion, "Actually, I didn't expect that either." Lingtian shrugged. "Junior brother is still the same as before." Li smiled, and after reminiscing with Lingtian, he said seriously, "You two, please come with me. Sect Master and the others have been waiting for a long time." Lingtian and Qian Renxue nodded slightly and followed Ningli's footsteps into the Qibao glazed sect. A moment later, in the reception hall of Qibao glazed sect. After Ningli brought the two of them, he stopped staying too much. At this time, Ning Fengzi, who was dressed in white robes, was sitting on the main seat, and standing next to him was Sword Douluo. The two of them had been waiting in the hall for a long time. Seeing Lingtian and Qian Renxue walking in, Ning Fengzi smiled gently at them. "King, I met the teacher. Lingtian, I have met Uncle Ning." Qian Renxue and Lingtian greeted Ning Fengzi at the same time. "King Xiaoshan, come and sit." Ning Fengzi smiled and nodded, pointing to the seat beside him. "Yes." The two nodded and sat on the chairs nearby. "Xiaoshan, congratulations on being awarded the title of king by His Majesty." Ning Fengzi looked at Lingtian and said with emotion, "I really didn't expect His Majesty to be so generous. This is a rare thing in the entire history of the Qian Dou Empire. Even if I'm the Xianbing king, I'm still a disciple of the Seven Treasures glazed sect." Lingtian said with a smile. Hearing Lingtian's answer, Ning Fengzi nodded slightly, then looked at Qian Renxue and said, "I'm afraid King also provided a lot of help this time, right? The main reason is that my father values Xiaoshan's talent." Qian Renxue said with a smile, "Xiaoshan's talent? Looking at the entire continent, it is difficult to find someone who can match it." Ning Fengzi looked at Lingtian, nodded and said with emotion, "Soul King. Who can match this level of talent?" Chapter 262. Brother Lingtian. Although Tangsun of the Haoshan sect is a twin martial soul, his current soul power is just that of the soul sect. Uncle Ning is too complimentary. I just want to practice for a while others are resting. Lingtian still said modestly. It's just that when I hear this sentence, I always feel a bit uncomfortable. Yes, you have to practice hard, even if you have talent. Ning Fengzi was stunned for a moment, then praised him. "By the way, Uncle Ning, Lingtian looked around and asked curiously, why did I only see the teacher today? Is Grandpa Gu not in the sect? Uncle Gu and that girl Rang Grang went out. Something happened at Shrek Academy. Ning Feng's face became a little solemn. Did something happen to Shrek Academy? Qian Renxue asked. Well, Ning Fengzi sighed and said, there was news from Shrek Academy this morning. It turned out that they were intercepted and killed by the Spirit Hall on their way back to the Tian Dou Empire. It may be because Tang San was born in the Haoshan sect. This one time, the Spirit Hall dispatched two titled Douluo to intercept and kill him. If Haoshan Douluo hadn't come to the rescue midway, all the students and teachers at Shrek Academy would probably have died in the face of this fatal situation. A glimmer of understanding flashed in Lingtian's eyes. It seemed that Bibi Dong still chose to take action point, but this is normal point when heading to Wuhan City. Because of Qian Renxue's reminder and the strength of the entire team, Bibi Dong ultimately did not take action against Shrek Academy like in the original work point, but when they returned, there was only one titled Douluo. Tang Heo point, it is indeed the best opportunity to make a move point. It is normal for Bibi Dong to besiege Shrek Academy at this time point. Lingtian couldn't help but be a little curious. Could Ju and Gui, the two titled Douluo who were in their peak state and possess martial soul fusion skills, be the opponent of Haoshan Douluo who was seriously injured? Thinking of this, Lingtian asked, what is the current situation of Shrek Academy? 3 teachers at Shrek Academy were seriously injured, and all the students were also injured, but fortunately there were no casualties. But after repelling the attack from the Spirit Hall, Tang San and the Spirit Beast Girl were both killed by Tang Heo. Take it away. Ning Fengzi said, teacher, Tang Heo alone blocked two titled Douluo from Wuhan Palace? Qian Renxue raised her eyebrows, and a hint of doubt flashed in her eyes. Although Tang Heo is very strong, Ju Douluo and Ghost Douluo are not weak either. Could it be that the two of them working together are not Tang Heo's opponents who need to be distracted to protect the students of Shrek Academy? Although there is only one titled Douluo in Shrek Academy, Tang Heo, relying on the clear sky hammer and the assistance of the golden iron triangle, Shrek Academy can barely repel the siege from the Spirit Hall. But Shrek Academy, the three teachers were also seriously injured after this battle, and after several days of training, they finally returned to Tian Dou City. Ning Fengzi explained, even so, it is enough to show Tang Heo's strength. The clear sky hammer is worthy of its name. Qian Renxue said with emotion. Yes. Ning Fengzi nodded in agreement. Then, senior sister Rang Grang and Grandpa Gu are going to Shrek Academy now? Lingtian asked. Sword. Douluo on the side nodded slightly and said, Rang Rang rushed back to the academy immediately after hearing about the situation at Shrek Academy. Old Bones was a little worried and followed him there. Xiaoshan, why did you come to the sect today? Ning Fengzi asked. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and I came here today mainly because we wanted to see the child Jiangshu. When we sent her back to the sect, we promised that we would come to see her, but it has been delayed until now because of the problem with Lingxia Palace. Lingtian said. I see. Ning Fengzi nodded suddenly and then said, you can go directly there. That child should still be practicing in the back mountain. Then, teacher, Xiaoshan and I won't disturb you, Qian Renxue said with cupped hands. Ning Fengzi nodded slightly and watched the two people leave the hall. Sword Douluo saw the somewhat absent-minded Ning Fengzi and asked, Fengzi, what are you thinking about, Uncle Jian? I always feel that there is something wrong with this title. Ning Fengzi turned his head and looked at Sword Douluo. A suspicious look flashed in his eyes. No matter how talented Xiaoshan is, His Majesty cannot directly make him the king, even with king. I also think this matter is a bit strange. Sword Douluo nodded. What kind of inside story should king know? Ning Fengzi thought for a moment and guessed, Your Majesty may be making big moves recently, and it should be related to Xiaoshan's throne. Then, what are we going to do? Sword Douluo asked in a deep voice. Stand still. When we need to take action, someone will naturally come to us. Ning Fengzi smiled confidently, with a glint in his eyes at the same time. Kibeo glazed sect's back mountain. Jiangshu stood alone on the cliff practicing. A year has passed since then. With the gift of the ice god's power, little Jiangshu has also changed subtly. The delicate face fair skin, and smooth long hair add a bit of cuteness to the little lolly point, but her beautiful eyes carry a perseverance that belies her age point at first glance. It seems that it has an extraordinary past point at this moment. She was holding an iron sword in her hand and waving it vigorously. It was obvious that the martial soul was awakened by the ice spirit fantasy. But the little girl was obsessed with sword practice. Douluo also told Xiao Jiangshu several times, but it had no effect. Seeing that the progress of soul power cultivation was not affected, Douluo had no choice but to do as she liked. Qian Renxue and Lingtian finally arrived at the back mountain. Xiao, who is that child? Qian Renxue stopped and pointed at the little lolly not far away and asked, well, that's the child. Although there were some changes in Xiao Jiangshu's appearance, Lingtian could clearly sense the power of the ice god. The two of them were talking as they approached the little girl. The little girl, who sensed someone coming behind her, put away her long sword. She originally thought it was the sect's senior sisters, but as soon as she turned her head to say hello, she realized that two unfamiliar figures were coming. Who are you? Jiangshu asked. She didn't have much to worry about, because this was the Kibao glazed sect. Lingtian walked up to the little girl, smiled gently, and said, you don't even recognize me, brother. Lingtian. Seeing that familiar face, the little lolly's voice was full of surprise, and she rushed towards Lingtian. Lingtian leaned down and caught Xiao Jiangshu. Brother. Lingtian, you are finally here. I thought you had forgotten. Jiangshu. The little girl lay in Lingtian's arms, her soft voice mixed with a bit of grievance. A year has passed, and she thought that brother Lingtian would never come. Chapter 263, The Missing Candied Fruit. Back then, Douluo didn't tell her the news of Lingtian's fall because of Jiangshu's painful experience. There were some delays before, so I came back a little late. Lingtian patted the little girl's back and explained the reason softly. Then, brother Lingtian, can you visit Jiangshu more often in the future? Little lolly raised her head and looked at Lingtian expectantly. Lingtian rubbed the little girl's head, chuckled and said, of course. Hearing that Lingtian agreed to his request, Jiangshu's little face was filled with a happy smile. After watching the two chatting for a long time, Qian Renxue finally couldn't stand it any longer. Ahem, come, Jiangshu, to introduce you. Lingtian pointed to Qian Renxue on the side and introduced, this is the crown prince of our Qian Dou empire and the person to whom I'm loyal, His Highness King Jiangshu. I have met His Highness the crown prince. Jiangshu saluted. After spending a year in Kibao glazed sect, little Jiangshu also learned basic etiquette. I heard Xiao mention you before, and you are quite cute. Your Highness seems very lively. You can call me Tay, Brother King. Qian Renxue smiled kindly and said hello to the little girl. Brother King. Xiao Jiangshu said calmly. Qian Renxue smiled and nodded, then suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Lingtian. Your Highness? Lingtian was slightly startled. Don't just stand there. Bring me a candied horse. Don't tell me you don't have any. I was quitting before I saw you take out one on the carriage. As he said that, Qian Renxue stood up. Open your palms. There are only a few left. Lingtian reluctantly handed it to Qian Renxue. It's strange to say that I haven't eaten much in the past 2 days, so why are the candied horse of food gone so quickly? It couldn't have been someone eating it, right? Forget it. It looks like I have to restock again. Just as Lingtian was wondering about the mystery of the candied horse on a stick, Qian Renxue leaned down and handed the candied horse to Xiao Jiangshu. She smiled softly and said, here you go. It's delicious. Thank you, Brother King. Xiao Jiangshu happily took the candied horse, perhaps because Lingtian gave her one at the beginning. Xiao Jiangshu's favorite snack now is also candied horse because of the close relationship between Lingtian and Qian Renxue, and the candied horse he was handed over. Xiao Jiangshu's liking for Qian Renxue skyrocketed. After walking for a while, several people came to a pavilion. How are you doing in the Kibao glazed sect? Lingtian asked. It's very good. The teacher and the senior brothers and sisters in the sect are very good to me. Xiao Jiangshu thought for a while and replied seriously, when I came here just now, I saw you were practicing your sword. Lingtian asked casually. Well, I know that I have not awakened my sword spirit and am not suitable for practicing swordsmanship. But I still want to learn swordsmanship. Brother Lingtian won't be like the teacher and doesn't want me to continue practicing swordsmanship, right? Jiangshu said weakly. Lingtian is her savior and has a high status in Zhao. Jiangshu's heart pointed is precisely for this reason that if Lingtian persuades him not to practice swordsmanship, it will undoubtedly be a huge blow to Zhao Jiangshu. There is no such thing as whether it is suitable or not. What you like is the most important thing. Lingtian rubbed the little lala's head and said softly, but you don't have a sword spirit. It will be very hard to walk on this road. I'm not afraid of hard work. Zhao Jiangshu said seriously. Well, I believe Zhao Jiangshu, but sword practice is sword practice, and the soul power cannot be left behind. What level is your soul power now? Lingtian asked. Brother Lingtian, Brother King, you guys have to guess first. Zhao Jiangshu said with a smile. Level 13. Qian Renxue guessed. That's not right. Zhao Jiangshu shook his head. Then, level 14. Lingtian asked. That's not right. Jiangshu is at level 15 now, the little girl said with some pride. Qian Renxue was slightly surprised and said, level 15. The talent is pretty good. Well, it's really good, but it's still a little worse than me. Lingtian glanced at Qian Renxue and said seriously. Qian Renxue wanted to say something, but when she thought that she was not in the prince's mansion, she just rolled her eyes at Lingtian. Why does His Highness the Crown Prince look at me like this? Am I not telling the truth? Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue and shrugged. It's the truth. Qian Renxue glared at Lingtian, thinking in her heart that she would settle the score with you. When she went home, Jiangshu sat aside and watched the two brothers playing with a happy smile on his face. After a while, Lingtian suddenly asked, what are Zhao Jiangshu's plans for the future? Zhao Jiangshu shook his head and said, no, I don't know. Then, do you want to join the prince's mansion like your brother Lingtian in the future? Qian Renxue smiled gently and raised her head to look at Zhao Jiangshu. Brother Lingtian, are you there too? Zhao Jiangshu glanced at Lingtian and asked in a low voice. Of course I'm here. Lingtian said with a smile. Then, I want to. Zhao Jiangshu's eyes lit up and she quickly nodded in agreement. The person she trusted the most was Lingtian, so when she heard that her brother Lingtian was there, she didn't even think about it. I will join the prince's mansion. Qian Renxue showed a satisfied smile and said, then we've settled. Zhao Jiangshu nodded vigorously and decided his future. After, Lingtian and Qian Renxue chatted with little Jiangshu for a while and finally agreed to come back to see little Jiangshu every 2 months. Little Lali reluctantly waved goodbye to Lingtian. A moment later, the Kibao glazed sect's mountain gate. King, why don't you stay and finish your meal before leaving? Ning Fengzi persuaded him to stay. Teacher, there are still things to deal with in the prince's mansion, so Xiaoshan and I will go back first. Qian Renxue explained with an apologetic smile and cupped her hands. Ning Fengzi smiled gently, nodded and said, that's right, business matters are more important. At the same time, on the other side, Lingtian was also saying goodbye to Ningli. Senior Sister Angrong, please ask me, senior brother, to say hello on my behalf. Lingtian cupped his hands and said, leave it to senior brother. Ning Li patted Lingtian on the shoulder, hesitated for a moment, and said, brother, it's hard to say much about you and junior sister Angrong. I just hope that junior brother, you won't regret your current choice in the future. Senior brother, you also know about feelings. A wry smile appeared on Lingtian's lips. As long as you know it yourself. Ning Li sighed and didn't say anything more. When Lingtian left Shrek Academy that day, it was the first time for Ning Li to see Rangrang crying so sadly. He had never seen this in the sect before. He respects Lingtian's choice, but he also doesn't want Rangrang to get hurt. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264, The Thief, An Unexpected Choice. Zhu is a bit heavy to rush to the topic just now. That's natural. Lingtian smiled slightly. Lingtian. And Ningli gave a few more words. This is the sound of Qian Renxue behind him. Xiaoshan, let's go. Lingtian turned his head. Qian Renxue was standing by the carriage at the moment, and he was beckoning himself to signal that they could leave. Master, hurry up. His Royal Highness has been urging. Ningli reminded. Well, brother, wait after a while. I will visit Kebaoliu Lizang again. Lingtian laughed in his hands, and then turned around to Qian Renxue. No. After the two finally said to Ningfeng, they didn't stay too much to get on the carriage. The carriage slowly drove and quickly disappeared in the mountain road. On the carriage, the last two bunches, Sister Zhu here divided you one. Lingtian turned to take out 2 rock sugar goods, and handed one of them to Qian Renxue. Where did you buy this? It tastes good. Qian Renxue took the sugar gourd, and raised the towel casually. It's not delicious. Lingtian bit a hawthorn, and said very proudly, these are all done by my own hands, but you can't buy it outside. It turns out, do more next time. Qian Renxue nodded, biting the first hawthorn. Lingtian nodded, and then asked, yes, I met today. How do you think Jiangshu? Qian Renxue commented, Jiangshu's child is good, his talent is also good, and you will be helpful in the future. This child is very bitter. Sister Zhu here, don't bully her. Lingtian joked. I like that. Qian Renxue glanced at Lingtian. This, I can't say. Lingtian shrugged. Lingtian, I will give you another chance. Qian Renxue quietly put the small hand gently to Lingtian's waist, and looked at Lingtian with a smile. Ha ha ha. Sister Zhu here joked. Joking. Don't, I'm wrong. It's wrong. I'm wrong now. It's late. Oh, it hurts. The two of them were fighting along the way, and the time of happy was always short. After a while, the two returned to Prince Mansion. I have seen His Royal Highness, King of Xianbing. As soon as the two entered the house, they hadn't waited for a while. The guards who had been waiting for a long time in the house, had been waiting for a long time. When they saw the two finally return to the house, they were relieved, and at the same time, they took a sigh of relief, and gave a gift to the two. Father, Emperor sent you, but what's the matter? Qian Renxue asked deeply. She had recognized that this person was the guard in the palace, and it was generally responsible for the safety of Zhuai in the palace. Back to His Royal Highness, His Majesty sent his subordinates to come to Lord Qianbing King, bringing the reward of yesterday's palace banquet, and the sealed land divided by His Majesty yesterday. So, that's it. Then go in first. Qian Renxue nodded, and then treated people to enter the front hall in the prince's house. His Royal Highness, this is the land that His Majesty prepared by Lord Qianbing Wang, and the scope of the land selection of the mansion. All the positions in this place are casually selected. The guard walked to the two of them, first bowed to the drawing of Qian Dou City. The various mansions that can be selected are marked above. Lingtian and Qian Renxue spread out the map and choose carefully. Just choose here. Lingtian saw a mansion closest to the prince's house at a glance, and then he didn't want to directly choose the mansion. Qian Renxue looked down and glanced, and he quickly understood the reason for choosing this. Congratulations to the King of Xianbing. The guard put away the map, and said respectfully to Lingtian, in the future, it will be your mansion. Other awards sent by His Majesty will also be sent to your mansion. Just send it to the prince's mansion directly, and I have no need for it alone. Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue and said calmly, everything obeys the instructions of the King of Xianbing. The guard nodded, and then took out an appointment book from the soul guide. Speaking, the guard walked to the desk case in the middle. With a light flashed on the soul guide, a larger map was covered with the entire table. His Royal Highness, King Xianbing, please see, this is the map of our Xianpu Empire. According to the promise given you by Majesty, His Royal Highness Xianbing can choose 3 towns on it as a sealed land. After speaking, the guard retreated and waited for Lingtian to choose his own sealed land. Lingtian and Qian Renxue stepped forward and picked the land, sealing land to themselves with the Dou Empire. His Royal Highness, how do you get here? Lingtian suddenly thought of something. The fingertips drew a circle in the base town between the northern part of the world and the base town of the Qian Dou Empire. Xiaoshan, here is a bad environment. Qian Renxue frowned. Here However, Lingtian shook his head, slowly moved his fingertips to the extreme north, and ordered a few times on it. It's really good. Qian Renxue smiled at it, and the first point Lingtian reached out to recruit the guard, and pointed to the town above the map. Master Qian Binking, do you want to put on a few pieces? Seeing a few places chosen by Lingtian, the guards persuaded, the positions you chose can be extremely remote, and the place is too close to the north. In addition to some adventurers in the town, people smoke are even more people smoke point rare. Basically no one will choose here as your own place. You can choose several towns near Bingsu city as your identity. I look at these 3 places. Lingtian shook his head. Point there are few people. This is what I want to do with him. Those people in Zhudan cannot stay in a great north. The location and situation of these 3 land ceiling are exactly in line with the requirements of Lingtian. At that time, it is also convenient for them to bring them out of the crackers of the Snow Valley. Now that Lord Qian Bingwang has decided, the subordinates will return your choice to His Majesty, and the seal and token of the land will be sent to the government. After the people resigned, they kept leaving Prince Mansion Point. He was not to pass the order for others. Several other counts of the new earl and other people were responsible. He specially assigned to Qian Binking, and he would return to the palace Zui to report the matter. This Qian Binking, this makes people understand. The guard jumped into the warhorse and finally glanced, and the choice of Lingtian couldn't help shaking his head. Chapter 265 Xiaoshan, let 039s go shopping together. When other nobles were choosing fiefdoms, they would choose whichever one they wanted to be attached to. However, the newly promoted Skies King did the opposite, and chose the 3 most desolate fiefdoms. However, these matters are not of concern to him. He only needs to report the news back to the palace to His Majesty. Drive. The guard tightened his legs on the horse's belly, and the horse galloped in response. Point at the same time, in the mansion, Lingtian and Qian Renxue were discussing the use of the fiefdom. Xiaoshan, even if you are here for the Snow Palace, it will be fine if you take out 2 pieces soon. Why would you choose all 3 pieces in that remote and desolate place? Qian Renxue asked puzzledly. I have been to these 3 small towns. Even though they are nearly 1,000 meters apart on the map, with the outposts and the deviation on the map, the actual distance between these 3 small towns is actually less than 100 meters. Putting all the area together, it is possible to build a city that is no less than an ice and snow city. Lingtian explained. Point. When he saw these 3 small towns in the fiefdom division, the first thought that came to his mind was that a prosperous town would always be just a small town, and could not compare with the benefits brought by a city. Point. Big point. Although the location chosen by Lingtian is sparsely populated, this problem is actually easy to solve. Point. The reason why the population here is small is because it is too close to the far north. The 3 small towns are often attacked by the soul beasts on the edge of the far north, and the small towns do not have soul masters and troops like the ice and snow city. Point. Protection. So if things go on like this, the population will continue to flow and become smaller and smaller, and if the Snow Palace is moved in, this problem will be solved. Point. When the time comes for a new city to be built, a city with title Douluo stationed there. Is there any safer place than this in the entire far north? At that time, the population will naturally continue to pour in. Xiaoshan, how do you solve your funding problem? Qian Renxue pondered for a moment and said, the funds required to build a city are not a small amount. You don't have to worry about funds. Lingtian smiled confidently. Snow Palace is hundreds of thousands of years of accumulation, coupled with the resources he left behind back then, can be exchanged for a large amount of money with just a small amount. It will be more than enough to build a city by then. Then, what help do you need? Seeing Lingtian's confidence, Qian Renxue was also a little moved. If a city can really be built, there will be extremely considerable benefits behind it. There is one thing where I really need His Highness's help, Lingtian said with a slight smile. What? Qian Renxue asked. Workers. A lot of workers. Lingtian thought for a while and added, it would be best to have some soul masters who have awakened the relevant martial spirits, so that the city can be built quickly. Leave this to me, as long as there are no problems with your funds. Qian Renxue agreed. Well, it just so happens that Qianshu College is close to the far north. I will discuss it with Mr. Chen and the others when the time comes, and we can start preparing to start building the city. Lingtian nodded. When are you going to Qian College? Qian Renxue asked. Just these few days. Lingtian thought for a while and said. Qian Renxue was silent for a moment, then looked at Lingtian and said, Xiaoshan, haven't we gone shopping together for a long time? Shall we go now? Lingtian asked. You go outside and wait while I change my clothes and find you. Qian Renxue hesitated for a while and finally made up her mind. Lingtian frowned and said, isn't it too risky for you to do this? Let's go to Qian City. No one will notice there. Just be careful. Qian Renxue waved her hand and said, then let Sister Chenzi come with you. She can help you hide for a while. Lingtian was also a little tempted at first, so he agreed. Even with two titled Douluo here, there wouldn't be any problems. You go to Qian City first. Remember not to let anyone notice you. Qian Renxue reminded. I see. Lingtian nodded and left the prince's mansion. Following his hint, Chenxi stayed with Qian Renxue for a while and took him out of the mansion. After Lingtian finished making arrangements, Qian Renxue also returned to the room. After closing the door, golden light flashed in front of her and Qian Renxue shed her disguise and returned to her original appearance. This was her first time shopping with Lingtian as Qian Renxue. Looking at the long dusted dresses in her soul guide, she began to carefully select them one by one. This is not good. This color is too light. This is too fancy. After choosing for a long time, Qian Renxue finally chose a golden dress. The overall material is made of precious gold wire. The overall style is classical and elegant without too many patterns. A golden vertical collar extends from the neck to protect her snow white and slender neck. Her hair is golden. The long hair hen casually follows behind her and complements the golden dress perfectly. Looking at the dressing mirror with her golden eyes, Qian Renxue smiled softly on her lips. Qian Renxue turned around in a circle, nodded with satisfaction, and said to herself, this guy should be surprised by me looking like this, right, senior? Chenxi, we can set off. Qian Renxue said softly. As soon as he finished speaking, the room lit up with a light blue light. When the light faded, Qian Renxue's figure had disappeared from the room. Half an hour later, Qian City. This city is not too far from Qian Dou City, and it is difficult to meet acquaintances, so the two chose this place for their date. Because Qian Renxue set off with Chenzi, she was faster than Lingtian, who set off first. At this moment, she was standing at the city gate waiting. The breeze blew her hair and caressed her charming face. The golden eyes are as calm as water, but in the depths of these water-like golden eyes, a person's figure has always been reflected. Now she can really be Qian Renxue. The Heaven Dou Empire, Wuhan Palace, etc. are all for the time being. Forgetting there is only Lingtian in her mind now. She is not Zuking from the prince's mansion. Not Qian Renxue, the saint of Wuhan Palace. Now, she is just a girl in love, waiting for her lover to arrive. In the blink of an eye, time passes. An icy blue figure came into view, and Qian Renxue knew that was the person she was waiting for. Lingtian walked up to him and looked into Qian Renxue's golden eyes. Although he didn't say anything touching, the affection in his eyes was hard to conceal. This beautiful lady, can I invite you to go shopping with me? Sure. A faint smile bloomed from the corner of Qian Renxue's mouth, but this gentle smile seemed to have some special magic power, making passers-by on the street slightly stunned. Chapter 266. This is a reward for you. Then let's go. Lingtian smiled brightly, held the jade hands, and walked into Qian City. Although Qian City is larger than Qian Dou City, the population in the city is also large, so the prosperity of the city is not much worse than that of Qian Dou City. Vendors hawking along the street, artists playing gongs and drums, etc. There are quite a few of them, and you can see them all here. Xiaoshan, that one is so awesome. Qian Renxue looked at the juggler on the street and said in surprise, whatever, I can do it. Lingtian smiled mysteriously, leaned close to Qian Renxue's ear, and said, Sister Zua, let me do a trick for you, okay? Qian Renxue clapped her hands and looked at Lingtian expectantly. Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue pretending to be serious, then clapped his hands and said, "Okay, the change is over." Qian Renxue blinked and looked at Lingtian in confusion. Lingtian held Qian Renxue's little hand with a smile on his lips and said, "Now, I like you even more, yeah Qian." Renxue's pretty face turned red and she got into Lingtian's arms. "This guy is so ashamed I learned these love words there and still say them on the street." The two people, who were not bound by their identities, could finally behave like a normal couple, holding hands and walking on the street clinging to each other. From time to time, Lingtian would say a few words of love, making Qian Renxue smile. "Xiaoshan, I wanted to." As she walked, looking at other couples holding flowers, Qian Renxue stopped and said with envy in her eyes, "Okay, look at the direction they are coming from. There should be a flower shop ahead." Lingtian smiled fondly, took Qian Renxue and walked forward. "Sister Zua, yours." After a while, Lingtian walked out of the flower shop, holding a large bouquet of flowers, and walked up to Qian Renxue. "Beauty, your boyfriend is really willing to give up. This is the most expensive bouquet in our store," and he took the photo without saying anything. The lady boss behind her was smiling, and she also spoke, to help at this time. "What are you buying so much for? What a waste." Although Qian Renxue said this, her pretty face was filled with a smile of joy, and she took the large bouquet of flowers with her beautiful hands. "As long as you like it." Lingtian smiled slightly and said softly, "HMM." Qian Renxue took one of the flowers and carefully placed the remaining flowers in the ring. This was the first bouquet Xiaoshan gave her, so of course she had to cherish it. "Sister Zua, just," as Lingtian was about to say something, Qian Renxue suddenly came forward and kissed the corner of Lingtian's mouth gently. "This is a reward for you," Qian Renxue said with a smile. Lingtian was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at the flower shop owner, waved his hand and said boldly, "Boss, wrap all the flowers here for me." "Shut up, boss, he was joking just now, don't take it seriously." Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes widened, and she pulled Lingtian away with black streaks on her head. The landlady looked at the young couple leaving in the middle of the commotion, smiled, shook her head, and recalled her youth. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes at Lingtian and said, "Are you stupid? A bouquet of flowers is exchanged for a reward. This deal is a sure profit." Lingtian said with a smile, "Who said 1 for 1? Qian Renxue rolled her eyes and said, "You only have one chance to get this reward. Only once." Lingtian was a little disappointed. Qian Renxue's beautiful eyes widened and she said, "Then how many more times do you want to think about how beautiful you are? It's okay once, that's okay." While joking, Lingtian took Qian Renxue and walked around Qianyu City again, but this time Qian Renxue had a bouquet of bright red flowers in her hand. As she walked on the road, Qian Renxue stared at Lingtian's side face intently, unable to bear to look away for a second. "Sister Zua, what are you thinking about?" Lingtian stopped, rubbed Qian Renxue's head, and asked in a gentle tone, "Before I met you, my world was dark. Only after I met you did color appear in my world. Xiaoshan, you are the only light in my life, allowing me to find the true meaning of life. I'm willing to protect you with everything I have." Qian Renxue covered her heart, her golden eyes full of tenderness, thinking of the past of the beautiful woman in front of him in the original work. Lingtian's heart ached, and he couldn't help but hold her in his arms and said, "Sister Zua, promise me to leave all the bad things in the past. I'm your future. From now on everything will be about me." HMM. Qian Renxue felt that she must have used up all her luck in her life, and then she met the best and only him, when she was the most helpless and lonely. Then she leaned on the arms that were not broad, but at the moment it made her feel extremely at ease. With him around, all seasons are like spring. With him here, the stars shine brightly. The relationship between the two is not a sudden and vigorous one, but a slow and steady process, letting things take their own course, and eventually becoming a warm and natural thing. I liked you when I was young, and it just so happens that you like me too now. Qian Renxue raised her head, her pretty face was rosy, and kissed Lingtian gently on the cheek. "Let's go over there and have a look." Lingtian pointed to the shopping street in front and asked softly, "Yeah?" Qian Renxue nodded lightly. The two held hands and watched as they walked along the commercial street. Baozi, freshly baked, hot buns. If you are passing by, take a look at my mink skin. It is the mink skin of the 10-year-old soul beasts and mink. When you make it into a coat and wear it, you will definitely have the noble temperament of a soul master. Candied haws on a stick. Delicious candied haws on a stick that is both sour and sweet. Before they knew it, the two of them had already spent 3 digits of gold soul coins, which was almost the income of an ordinary soul master in about a year, but it was only a small amount for both of them. Lingtian held Qian Renxue's hand, and the sweet breath filled the two of them. But this was a hardship for Chenzi, who was protecting the two of them from behind. Alas. Looking at the young couple not far away, Chenzi sighed softly, her originally frozen heart, and now she couldn't help but begin to yearn for love. Unknowingly, the two of them walked to a shop selling jewelry. Hey, this necklace is nice. Qian Renxue glanced with her beautiful eyes, pulled Lingtian to the front of the store, picked up one of the blue necklaces, and made a few gestures on her snow white neck. Ocean, what do you think? Qian Renxue looked at Lingtian. This is a nice jade necklace with an overall ice blue color and a cross shape. The hanging chain is engraved with exquisite patterns. The whole necklace exudes a holy light. The crystal clear color looks particularly bright under the sunlight. It's very beautiful. Lingtian nodded and praised. The owner of the shop is a middle-aged aunt with a friendly smile. When she saw Lingtian and Qian Renxue, a handsome man and a beautiful woman, and their clothes were either rich or expensive, the aunt immediately realized that they were visiting distinguished guests and hurriedly greeted them enthusiastically. As he was being entertained, the original smile on his face became even stronger. Chapter 267 Sister Zhu here. Iron-039 lines put it on for you. This beauty has a discerning eye at first glance. This necklace seems to be tailor-made for you. You believe that I will fit it perfectly on you? The aunt said with praise. Although Qian Renxue knew that she said this in order to sell the necklace, Qian Renxue still inadvertently raised a smile when she heard others praise her so straightforwardly, especially in front of Ocean. Ocean, help me bring it. Qian Renxue turned her head, and Lingtian happened to see the smile. Immediately, a sentence came to mind. The so-called mountains and rivers as far as the eye can see are not enough for you to raise your eyebrows and smile. Ancient people, sincerely do not deceive me. Originally, Lingtian thought it was an exaggeration, but today he feels it is natural. Ocean. When Lingtian came to his senses, he turned his head and found Qian Renxue looking at him resentfully. Put it on for me. Qian Renxue placed the necklace in Lingtian's palm, turned around immediately, and naturally picked up the long hair hanging down like a waterfall with both hands, and at the same time slightly folded the erected collar, completely exposing her slender snow white swan neck. Here, sister, the girl's skin is as white as snow, moist and delicate, with a hint of ruddy color amidst the whiteness and tenderness. When she lifts up her hair that hangs down to her waist, there is a fragrance of virginity unique to a girl. Qian held the necklace in his palm and was stunned for a moment. What's wrong? Qian Renxue asked doubtfully. No, it's nothing. I'll help you put it on now. Lingtian came back to his senses. Fortunately, Sister Zhu here did not turn her head, otherwise she would have known that she had made a fool of herself and would have been laughed at. Sister Zhu, don't move around. I'll put it on for you now. Lingtian unfolded the necklace in his hand, holding one end of the necklace with one hand, and then holding the other end with the other hand, clasping the two ends together through Qian Renxue's chest point. Although I was extremely careful, my elbow still touched the soft surface in front of me. Qian Renxue also knew that this was inevitable, and a blush appeared on her pretty face without saying anything. Sister Zhu, it's okay. Finally, Lingtian put on the necklace and whispered softly to his ear. Qian Renxue turned her head in response. She was already beautiful, but she looked even more beautiful and radiant with this necklace. Ocean, how are you? Qian Renxue smiled sweetly. Her smile is as beautiful as the peach blossoms blooming in spring. Her hair is like a waterfall, hanging down on her waist. Her bright eyes, white teeth, and small cherry mouth, reflected in the bright sunlight, are deeply imprinted in Lingtian's mind. A trace of surprise flashed in Lingtian's eyes, and he said with emotion, the flowers are blooming, and the sun is bright, but they are still not half as bright as your smile. Seductive blush suddenly appeared on Qian Renxue's cheeks, and she was inadvertently moved by Lingtian's heartfelt words and couldn't help but feel her heart agitate. The words of the shop owner also sounded at the right time. This necklace also has a beautiful name, called Heart of Ice and Snow, which means the feelings between lovers. If ice and snow are as pure and beautiful as ice and snow, may the people around you be with you from beginning to end. Thank you, auntie, we will. A smile appeared on Lingtian's lips, and at the same time he took out a small bag of gold soul coins and said, there are about 50 more gold soul coins in it, which should be enough to buy this necklace. Right, enough. The aunt smiled happily, hurriedly put away the soul coin bag, and blessed, I wish you to a lifetime of happiness together. Thanks, Lingtian. And Qian Renxue smiled at each other, holding hands and slowly leaving the stall. Later, in Qian City, the two of them climbed to the highest attic hand in hand, saw the bustling night view of the city together, walked through countless bustling streets, and broke branches in the peach forest, and gave each other free gifts, where they freely wrote their love. They also cuddled up by the window, and watched the sunset together. Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue, and Qian Renxue also looked at Lingtian, with no room for anything else in his eyes. Time passes, and the sun and moon rotate. Unknowingly, the two of them spent a whole day in Qian City. Even if you are reluctant to give up, time will eventually pass. Although neither of them wanted to end this happy time, they both knew that when it was over, they would be content to enjoy the day happily. At this moment, the moon is bright and the stars are sparse. The two stood at the city gate. Neither of them spoke first. Qian Renxue held the peach branch in her hand. Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue with his ice blue eyes, trying to imprint this scene in his mind. Soon, she will become Zhu King again. I don't know how long it will take before the two of them can be themselves, like they are today, and enjoy the happiness that this love brings. Sister Zua, it's time for us to go back. Finally, Lingtian said, wait a moment. A gust of fragrant wind hit him, and before he could react, Qian Renxue put her hands on her waist, and at the same time there was a delicate and soft feeling between her lips and teeth. He solemnly put away the peach branch. Sister Chenxi, take us back. As soon as the words were spoken, the two disappeared from the spot, leaving only a cold soul power in the air. The next day. Qian Dou Empire, Prince's mansion. After the two returned home, they got back on track. Although they were very happy yesterday, they couldn't forget the business. Qian Renxue was currently dealing with yesterday's accumulation in the government affairs that were just presented today. These excerpts are current affairs and need to be reviewed and processed as soon as possible. Lingtian was sitting in the courtyard enjoying tea when he suddenly heard the sound of powerful footsteps. Sir, Douluo Man is here to visit. The guard cupped his hands and said, Douluo, what is he here for? Lingtian was slightly startled, then said, hurry up and invite senior in. Yes. The guard nodded and left, and soon Douluo came over. Lingtian, I have met Senior Douluo. Lingtian stood up, cupped his hands, and said calmly, you are looking for His Highness the Crown Prince. He is still in the study and needs me. No need to trouble your highness. I came here specifically to see you today. Douluo waved his hand and said, I wonder what's going on, Senior Douluo? Lingtian asked in confusion. I came here mainly for two things today. The first is to congratulate you on becoming the Sky's King. The second. Douluo hesitated for a moment and asked worriedly, the second thing I want to ask you is, how about that boy from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect? Yesterday Yu and Zen came to see me specially. I heard that he wanted to get engaged to Yanan for his child. I didn't know much about that kid before. You guys haven't been teammates for a while before, so I wanted to ask. What do you think of Yu Qianheng? What Douluo values most is his granddaughter. Now that someone wants to propose marriage to his granddaughter, he must of course carefully examine whether Yu Qianheng is qualified to be his grandson-in-law. Chapter 268 Panic, Eager Avalanche. Seeking the moon. So that's what happened. Lingtian nodded suddenly. Unexpectedly, this guy Yu Qianheng is really a man of action. He just mentioned this matter 2 days ago and immediately mobilized his family to propose marriage to Douluo. However, both families have titled Douluo, so they can be considered a good match. Lingtian, what do you think? Du Gubo asked. Qian Heng is a very talented person. He might even be able to win a title in the future, and he also has responsibilities that are worthy of being entrusted to him. In addition, Sister Yan and Qian Heng are in love with each other and like each other. The relationship between your two families is I don't think there is any problem with the marriage. Lingtian picked up the teacup and looked at Du Gubo calmly, listening to what you said. He is quite a good person. Du Gubo stroked his beard and fell into deep thought. Of course, it mainly depends on what senior Du Gu means. My opinion is just to give senior a reference. Lingtian smiled slightly and took a sip of tea. I understand. Du Gubo nodded, then took out a small porcelain bottle and said, I usually only practice poison. After thinking about it, these few poison pills are the only ones I can get my hands on. They can handle it. Enemies who have been given a title. Just think of it as a congratulatory gift to congratulate you on being crowned a king with a different surname in the Qian Dou Empire. Thank you, senior. Lingtian took the porcelain bottle and thanked him. The gift has been delivered, so I will go ahead. Senior, walk slowly. Du Gubo said hello to Lingtian, then turned and left the prince's mansion. Lingtian also knew that it was because of the matter between Du Guyan and Yu Qian Heng that he did not retain Du Gubo. Du Guyan, Yu Qian Heng. There is only so much I can do to help, and I hope the two of them can achieve success as soon as possible. Then Lingtian stopped thinking and opened the small porcelain bottle. 1, 2, 3, 10. Lingtian looked at the poison pills in the porcelain bottle and couldn't help but sigh. Senior Dibu, are you too generous this time? This is good stuff. Not only can it be used as a life-saving means, but sometimes it can also play an unexpected role. Don't look at what Du Gubo said lightly. These poisonous pills contain his green-scaled snake venom, and it takes a lot of time and soul power to condense each one. This time Du Gubo gave himself 10 poisonous pills at once, which can be said to have taken out more than half of his poisonous pills. In stock. It's noon, time to prepare lunch. Lingtian raised his head and glanced at the time, then put away the poison pill and walked straight towards the kitchen. In the blink of an eye, night has arrived. Prince's mansion, study room. Qian Renxue frowned slightly and said worriedly, Xiaoshan, are you really sure? Don't worry, Sister Zua. Lingtian patted his chest, smiled confidently, and said, I'm a master in alchemy. It is very simple for me to split the energy in the inner elixir. Anyway, be careful. I don't want you to be in danger. Qian Renxue sighed and handed over the inner elixir of the 10-headed blazing sun snake despite Lingtian's repeated requests. Don't worry. Lingtian took the jade box and immediately returned to the room and closed the door. Brush. After a while, bursts of medicinal fragrance filled the room, and the ice flame cauldron ignited a faint blue flame again. At the same time, Qian Dou City. Prince Snouster's residence. Tonight, a special guest suddenly came to the prince's residence. Zhu Beng sat opposite Zhu Crossing. He was different from the previous playboys. He said with worried eyes, Uncle Emperor. As soon as Lingtian was granted the throne, the prince's side became very popular. I never thought that, just for being the champion of the Soul Master competition, your majesty will be able to reward a king with a different surname. Prince Zuxing sighed helplessly. He was far away from the court and could not intervene at all. What other possibility is there? Zhu Beng sneered and said, it must be the fault of the elder brother. Otherwise how could my father be such a childish person? No, even if your majesty continues to favor the crown prince, the matter of being crowned king will definitely not be such a child's play. I think there must be other reasons for this. Zuxing shook his head. With a hint of thought in his eyes, he knew the temperament of his elder brother, Emperor Zhuai of the Qian Dou Empire. Although he is very old now, and the sun is declining, as long as he is in power, he will never do such a big thing as conferring a title. Because he loves the prince and is nepotistic, he must have other reasons for doing so. Uncle Emperor, don't worry about these things for now. There was a trace of worry in Zhu Beng's eyes, and he said, the most important thing now is the father's side. I think this time the title of king seems to be somewhat intended to determine the heir to the throne. This is what worries him most. If his father really passed the throne to his eldest brother, he will be greeted by a dead end. That's why he risked exposing his relationship with Zuxing and came to the prince's residence overnight to discuss countermeasures. Please ask your uncle to help your nephew, Zhu. Beng stood up and walked to Zhu Crossing, folded his hands, and made a deep bow. Oh, that's alright. Seeing Zhu Beng begging him like this, Zhu Crossing sighed, put his hands behind his back, and said resolutely, I will go to the palace in a few days to see what your majesty means. Even if I really want to determine the heir to the throne, I will find a way out for you from his majesty. Nephew, thank you very much, uncle. There was a hint of joy in Zhu Beng's eyes, and he quickly accepted the offer. Although he didn't know what the final outcome would be, compared to himself, his uncle had more say in his father's side. This is also the purpose of his coming to the palace overnight today. Zuxing waved his hand and said, you should go back first and leave the rest to the emperor's uncle. Nephew, please excuse me. Zhu Beng bowed deeply and then exited the room with satisfaction. My former imperial brother, now you, is that position so important in your eyes? Zhu Crossing let out a long sigh as he watched Zhu Beng leave the room. Within the Zhuoqiang, where are the brothers? You fight against me, all for that position. Zuxing couldn't figure it out before, and she still doesn't understand it now. For him, anyone can be the emperor. If Zhu Beng had not had evidence that King He murdered his brother, how would he, a prince who could have stayed out of the matter and enjoyed the rest of his life, wade into this muddy water because he didn't want to see his roommates fighting each other? Too much blood had been shed in the royal family. Brother Imperial, what are you planning on doing? Zuxing raised his head and looked up at the starry sky, shrouded in black clouds, with a hint of worry in his eyes as he murmured in a low voice. Prince's mansion, backyard, call after half an hour of continuous tempering, the inner elixirs of the 10 blazing sun snakes in the alchemy cauldron, under the gaze of the eyes of the ice god, have now turned into 36 elixirs with relatively peaceful energy. Once the elixir is complete, the cauldron can be opened. Bang. He shook the alchemy cauldron with his right hand, and 36 elixirs came out. Chapter 269. Dang dang dang. Lingtian waved his palm and used the porcelain bottle that he had already prepared to put all the 36 elixirs in it. Crunch opened the door and see the willow branches above the moon. Before I knew it, I had been refining elixir late into the night. Seeing the lights still on in the study, Lingtian closed the door and walked straight over. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Lingtian, come in. As soon as he finished speaking, he opened the door. Swish. Brush. As soon as she entered the door, she saw that Qian Renxue was still processing the memorials. It seemed that the government affairs accumulated in the past 2 days would have to be approved all night long. However, when she saw Lingtian coming in, a trace of happiness flashed in her slightly tired eyes. Of smile. Success. Fortunately, I did not disgrace my life. As he spoke, Lingtian walked to Qian Renxue and pushed the small porcelain bottle in front of Qian Renxue. Bottling out the medicine stopper on the porcelain bottle. The hot breath hid my face, accompanied by a faint medicinal fragrance. At the same time, Lingtian made a timely introduction. I combined the inner elixirs of the 10-headed fierce sun snakes with some neutralizing herbs and a little bit of ice marrow to create a total of 36 elixirs that can enhance soul power. Because they are taken from the 10-headed fierce sun snakes, therefore, it is named Liang Soul Rising Pill, Fire, Yang Soul Ascension Pill. Qian Renxue felt a little curious and repeated the name. Compared with the original inner elixir, this Liang Soul Rising Pill is far less powerful than before, but you can't take it too much. You must thoroughly refine the potency of one pill before taking the Liang Rising Soul Pill. Soul Pill, otherwise it is very likely to cause a riot of soul power in the body. And Sister Zua, your soul saint's refining speed should be able to completely refine a pill every half a month or so. In this way, coupled with the daily soul power training, you can reach the soul level in about a year. Douluo, complete the first test of the God of Angels. Lingtian reminded. Don't worry, Ziocean, I will pay attention. Qian Renxue then nodded softly and said softly, I have been practicing done for an afternoon, so go back and have a good rest. After saying that, Qian Renxue smiled at Lingtian. Lingtian, agreed wholeheartedly, then stood up and walked to the door. Then, with Qian Renxue's eyes full of surprise, she did not open the door, but moved a stool and sat opposite Qian Renxue, looking at Qian Renxue quietly with her eyes relatively silent. Zhaoshan, what are you doing? Stay with you, didn't I just ask you to go back and rest? But I want to stay with you. Forget it. If you want to stay, just stay here. Helpless, Qian Renxue shook her head and continued to remove the memorial on the desk. And Lingtian, just as he said, sat in the room and accompanied him quietly, handing over tea, memorials and the like from time to time. The atmosphere in the room is also extremely warm. Looking at the serious side face illuminated by the lights, a slight smile appeared at the corner of Lingtian's mouth. Immediately, he suddenly thought of something, and there was a hint of cunning in Lingtian's eyes. He simply leaned over and gently left a mouthful of no on Qian Renxue's cheek. Chirped. The soft sound and the hot feeling on her cheeks made Qian Renxue move, and her beautiful face was instantly flushed. If you do this again, I will beat you out. No, Sister Zua, you continue. Stop making trouble. Qian Renxue glanced at Lingtian again worriedly, and then continued to deal with the memorial on the desk. Time flies, and 3 more days passed in the blink of an eye. The Xianbing Palace that Emperor Zuyi promised before has finally been sorted out after these few days of rest. The guards in the palace are taking Lingtian to his palace. Originally, Qian Renxue was going to accompany her, but Zuyi had another purpose and summoned her into the palace. So today Lingtian went to the palace alone. It took about a quarter of an hour to walk from the prince's mansion. The road turned to corners, and after going straight for a few hundred meters, the carriage stopped in front of a luxurious mansion. Lord Xianbing King, your palace has arrived. The guard stopped the carriage and said respectfully, Lingtian's calm voice came from the carriage, and then he opened the curtain and slowly stepped out of the carriage. After standing firm, Lingtian looked at the tall building in front of him. I saw that the appearance of this palace was no different from that of ancient Chinese palaces, a red vermilion lacquered door, and ornaments on the left and right sides of the palace. However, what is placed here is not a stone lion, but a spirit beast similar to its majesty. And right above the vermilion gate, there is a new plaque made of black golden and mu, with 4 characters written on it, Xianbing Palace. At this time, the vermilion door of the palace was already wide open. There was a soldier standing on both sides holding a spear. When he saw Lingtian getting off the carriage, he lowered his head, knelt down on one knee and shouted, "See the prince." Lingtian looked around and knew that these soldiers were specially prepared for him in this royal palace. He, a newly appointed prince, must not have many manpower. It is estimated that there will be many maids, servants and the like. In this way, Emperor Zuyi was quite considerate. He rewarded him with a royal palace and provided all the staff. No courtesy. Please get up. Lingtian raised his hand, and the surrounding soldiers stood up in response. At the same time, the guards brought a middle-aged man with an upright face to Lingtian and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, this is the butler of your Xianbing Palace. My subordinate, Wang Wu, has met the prince." Wang Wu said respectfully, "If your Majesty has nothing else to do, I will return to the palace to report to your Majesty." The guard cupped his hands and said, "Well, you go back." Lingtian waved his hand to the guard, then turned his eyes to Wang Wu. After thinking about it for a while, he finally said, "Wang Wu Shiba, take me for a walk first." "Yes, your Majesty, please come down with me." Wang Wu took a step back and led Lingtian into the palace. The soldiers around him couldn't help but communicate in low voices after Lingtian walked away. "This one is so young. Yes, he looks like he is less than 20 years old. Our prince is still sulking. I heard that the prince seems to have a good relationship with His Highness the Crown Prince. If you don't mention anything else, how can our prince be so simple just by mentioning the name Wang with a different surname?" They had heard about this Sky Ice King before when they were in the palace. Today, when they saw it with their own eyes, he was as young as the rumors in the palace. which made them, the guards in their 30s, feel ashamed. Being awarded the title of king of the opposite sex at such an early age made these soldiers admire Lingtian. At the same time, I also felt a bit of honor. Being able to protect the mansion for people like this is an honor for them. All the necessary facilities in the palace have been prepared for him in the past few days. If necessary, he can stay directly in the palace today. Chapter 270, ZHUZHUQINGN-039, S request. Your Majesty, this is the front hall. Your Majesty, this is the dining room. Your Majesty, this is the back courtyard. There are 10 courtyards in total. Your Majesty, this is the distribution of the entire palace. After about half an hour, Wan Wu finally took Lingtian to visit the entire palace. Not bad. Lingtian nodded with satisfaction. After walking around, Lingtian felt good about the palace, and the overall structure was in line with his wishes. Your Majesty, there is a visitor at the door. At this moment, the guard in the palace ran over, knelt on one knee, and said respectfully with his hands clasped in his fists, "Well, who is it?" Lingtian's eyes showed a hint of surprise. She said her name is ZHU Zuking, and she is your friend, the prince. The guard reported. ZHU Zuking. Lingtian was slightly startled and thought to himself, why did she come to find him? And they have only met each other twice, so they can't be called friends. Right, take her to the front hall. I will be there in a moment. Lingtian was a little curious and decided to meet her. No. The guard handed over and left. Lingtian turned his head and said, Wan Wu, take me to the front hall. Yes. Wan Wu nodded and immediately walked to the front to lead the way. Although Lingtian had memorized the general structure of the mansion just now, it would definitely be much faster with Wan Wu leading the way than by himself. A moment later, the front hall of Qianbing Palace. Lingtian sat on the pearl chair, while ZHU Zuking stood opposite. You all go down first. After the maids on the left and right were dismissed, Lingtian looked at ZHU Zuking and asked, today is my first day in the palace. How did you know about it? I happened to walk to Qianbing Prince's mansion and wanted to come in and try my luck. ZHU Zuking replied. Lingtian did not look into the matter in detail and continued to ask, then why do you have to see me? I want to ask for your help. I don't want to tie the future to Daimyo Bei. I want to walk out of my own future alone. ZHU Zuking said seriously. Do you want me to help you? Lingtian was slightly startled, his eyes full of doubts, and thought to himself, why do you want to come to me for help regarding your Xingluo Empire? And we don't seem to be familiar with each other, right? There wasn't much communication in total. At most it was just a little bit more than a bullet wound from a stranger. So, why did you come to me? Just when Lingtian was about to refuse, ZHU Zuking bowed deeply to Lingtian. I didn't want to accept the path they gave me. She raised her head, looked at Lingtian with piercing eyes, and said word for word, just like what I want to tell you. I want to resist my own destiny. I want to control my own life. ZHU Zuking doesn't like Daimyo Bei. During more than a year at Shrek Academy, she had grown to hate Daimyo Bei. Seeing that he was about to graduate from Shrek Academy and face the deadline to return to the Star Luo Empire, ZHU Zuking was unwilling to succumb to fate and was bound to Daimyo Bei. But now we are in trouble. If she wants to survive, she can only cooperate with Daimyo Bei. Therefore, ZHU Zuking, who was at his wit's end, remembered Lingtian, who had once mentioned something about him, so he came to Qianbing King with the mentality of giving it a try, hoping to find a glimmer of hope here. If there is no way here, so she will use her own way to fight against this unfair fate. Forehead. After hearing ZHU Zuking's words, Lingtian also recalled what he had said. I immediately wanted to give myself 2 slaps. He didn't think much about it at first, and Daimyo Bei had offended him at that time, so he lectured ZHU Zuking, but she didn't expect that she really listened. Come on, you were so excited at the time, but now people come to your door. What should you do? After a moment of silence, ZHU Zuking's originally expectant eyes gradually dimmed. Lingtian didn't speak for a long time. ZHU Zuking already understood the meaning, smiled to himself, and said, I'm sorry, it was Zuking who was presumptuous. I'm sorry for disturbing Lord Xianbing Wang. After saying that, Zhu Zuking bowed to Lingtian, then turned around and prepared to leave the Xianbing palace. Wait a moment. Lingtian pondered for a moment and finally called Zhu Zuking, rubbed his head, and asked, I want to know, have you really made your decision? With your current soul power level, you may not be able to return to the Star Luo Empire. Lose to them, winning or losing. I don't want to return to the Star Luo Empire. That kind of future is not what I want. Zhu Zuking looked at Lingtian and said seriously. After pondering for a moment, Lingtian asked, you have decided, don't you regret it? Yeah. Zhu Zuking nodded firmly, while looking at Zhu Zuking, who had extremely firm beliefs. Lingtian sighed and wished he could slap himself. Why couldn't he hold back at that time? And he had to have sex with others. Forget it, clean up the mess you made yourself. Lingtian shook his head, looked at Zhu Zuking, and said, in this case, I can give you a chance and a possibility to change your future. But you have to understand that this means a complete break with the Star Luo Empire, and may also face their revenge. I'm not afraid of anything, but can you make up your mind and give up everything in the Star Luo Empire? Zhu Zuking just opened his mouth, but Lingtian raised his hand to interrupt. Don't rush to agree. I haven't finished speaking yet. There is no free lunch in the world, and there is no such thing as pie in the sky. I'm not a kind person, so my help is not free. What are the conditions? Zhu Zuking had expected it early and asked calmly. I need you to join my force. I share. You have to think clearly. After pausing for a moment, Lingtian reminded, it may be difficult here, but it may not be much better than it is in the Star Luo Empire. The only thing that can be guaranteed is sufficient training resources and the ability for you to decide your own future. I agree. Zhu Zuking clenched his fists and said without hesitation. As long as there are no restraints, everything else is nothing. In her eyes, sisters kill each other, regardless of family ties. Such a cold and cruel family left her with no memories of Xingluo. If she could, she would rather never go back there. Lingtian nodded slightly and said, in that case, then I'll give you a chance. Thank you. Thank you. Zhu Zuking looked at Lingtian gratefully, his beautiful eyes filled with joy and a sense of relief. Finally, there is no need to return to the cold family. Finally, she no longer has to face the person she hates. Finally, I no longer have to face endless calculations and killings. She made the right bet this time. Here in Lingtian, she finally found an opportunity that could change her destiny. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271. Then do you want to live there in the future? Whoosh. At the same time, a token was thrown in front of him. This is Zhu Zuking came back to his senses and looked at the token in his hand. This is your chance. Lingtian looked at Zhu Zuking calmly and said, from today on, you are the registered disciple of Snow Palace. Now go to the far north. There will be people to guide you there. If you can pass the trial they arranged, you can truly become a disciple. A disciple of the Snow Palace. Change your destiny. But if you fail, then go back to where you came from. I've given you the opportunity. It's up to you whether you can seize it. Zhu Zuking was not deterred by these words. A flash of light flashed in his sharp eyes, and he said resolutely, I will definitely seize this opportunity. This is the first and most important step to change your destiny. She will definitely try her best. I hope you can do it. Lingtian said lightly, thank you for your help. I will definitely repay your kindness in the future. Zhu Zuking bowed gratefully to Lingtian and then left the Xianbing palace. It's different from the worries at the beginning. After leaving Prince Xianbing's palace, Zhu Zuking swept away the previous sadness and was filled with the joy of being reborn. She knew that she had finally embarked on a new path. Although the road ahead may not be smooth and may be full of thorns, she will continue to walk unswervingly because this is the path she has chosen. From then on, She was her, and she was herself. It has nothing to do with Daemon Bay, the Xingluo Empire, or the Xingluo Zhu family anymore. At the same time, inside the Xianbing Palace. Lingtian's fingertips tapped on the armrest, rhythmically. Ta 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 Sister Chenzi, please tell Mr. Chen, and ask him to send someone to bring her into the Snow Valley. As for the assessment and other matters, just go through the process. With her talent, she is also qualified to join the Snow Palace. Lingtian suddenly said. Road. Yes. After a moment, a response came from the empty hall. Asking Zhu Zhu King to join the Snow Palace. A new idea also popped up in Lingtian's mind. Since he controls the far north and the Snow Palace, why not simply form a force of his own? In addition, I'm preparing to build a city. Once this idea came up, Lingtian felt that it was very feasible. Although he has 100% trust in Qian Renxue. This does not mean that he also trusts Wuhan Palace. Wuhan Palace is Wuhan Palace. Qian Renxue is Qian Renxue. Lingtian has always made a clear distinction between Wuhan Palace and Qian Renxue in his heart. He believes in Qian Renxue, but is still wary of Wuhan Palace. Wuhan Palace is now controlled by Bibi Dong. No one knows what a crazy woman will do. Therefore, it is still necessary for Lingtian to create a force of his own. And now he also has the ability to create a force. Lingtian now feels that it is necessary to go back to the far north this time to see what Chen Yu means. If it is feasible, then it will be implemented together with the city construction plan. If there is a problem in Wuhan Palace, he will have enough strength to protect Qian Renxue. Wang Wu. Lingtian said calmly, my subordinate is here. Wang Wu rushed over and said respectfully. Lingtian stared at Wang Wu and said, from now on, I will leave the palace to you. I will come over to check on you when I have time. Don't let me down, please. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I will definitely live up to your trust. Wang Wu said respectfully with a happy face. He had left the entire palace in his hands, but he had never thought that he would be so valued. Well, do your best. Lingtian patted Wang Wu on the shoulder. He didn't know Wang Wu's psychological activities at the moment. If he knew, he would probably tell him not to think too much. He just didn't want to worry about these little things, and just found someone to take care of them. After sitting in the palace for a while, Lingtian stood up and left the Xianbing Palace. It's time to go home. Sister Zhu here. You should have gone back now. Xianbing Palace is just a house to him. And home doesn't just refer to a house. In Lingtian's heart, wherever Qian Renxue is, that is his true home. As soon as he returned to the prince's mansion, Lingtian saw that Qian Renxue's carriage had already returned to the mansion. So he went straight to the study. Pushing open the door to the study, Qian Renxue was inside, holding a memorial and frowning, wondering what was going on. Sister Zhu, what's wrong? Lingtian asked curiously. No, it's nothing. Qian Renxue shook her head and put away the memorial. Zhuotian, how do you feel about going to your own palace today? This is your first mansion in Tian Dou City. I was originally going to go with you, but Zuyi handed me over to you halfway. It's not bad. That palace is quite thoughtful. Everything has been prepared. Officials, guards, and maids are all available. You can live directly in the palace today. Sounds good. Of course, following Qian Renxue's topic, the topic naturally came to the palace. Qian Renxue glanced at Lingtian with her beautiful eyes and asked casually, then where do you want to live in the future? Of course, the prince's mansion. Lingtian looked at Qian Renxue, smiled gently, and said, actually, it doesn't matter where I live. I will appear wherever you are. You can talk. Qian Renxue's lips raised slightly. By the way, Sister Zhu, I plan to go to Xianshu College with Sister Chenzi in a few days. I promised Sister Chenzi a long time ago, but I didn't expect it to be delayed until now. Lingtian rubbed his nose and said a little embarrassed, well, you should have gone a long time ago. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes at Lingtian and said, I've urged you several times before, but why do you keep saying there's no rush? No rush. It's okay, why don't we go now? Lingtian smiled awkwardly. Okay, if you feel like it, go back and prepare. I also have things to deal with here. Qian Renxue said, and pushed Lingtian out of the study. Why are you in such a hurry? I haven't finished speaking yet. Looking At the closed door, Lingtian shrugged helplessly and said in his heart, "It's not that I didn't tell you these two things, it's because you don't want to hear them. Don't blame me then." Immediately, Lingtian returned to his room. After a few days of rest in the prince's mansion, it was time to put Chen Zi's affairs on the agenda. However, something big happened in the past few days. Yu Xianheng and Du Guyan are engaged, and the engagement ceremony will be held in 3 months. In order to celebrate this event, Yu Xianheng and his wife called Lingtian and others together to announce the good news and also invited everyone to attend the engagement ceremony. 3 months later, Lingtian and others naturally agreed happily and agreed to get engaged and meet in 3 months. Chapter 272. Your child. I found it for you. There happened to be nothing to do these days, so after saying hello to Qian Renxue, Lingtian and Chen Zi set off on the road to Xianshu College. And just when Lingtian and Chen Zi left Qian Dou City, Prince Zuxing also entered the palace to meet Emperor Zuai on this day. The purpose of Zhu Crossing entering the palace today is to come for avalanche. After Zhu Crossing took a deep breath, she walked into the palace gate with firm eyes. He must figure out what Zhu Yi means. If there is no possibility of avalanche on the throne, then he will ask the emperor brother for a fief, which at least allows him to survive as a rich man. At the same time, sleeping in the palace on a snowy night. Zhu Yi, who had just had a conversation with Qian Renxue and felt a little tired, was about to take a rest when the guards outside the palace came forward to report, "Your Majesty, your Majesty, the prince wishes to see you." The guard bowed his hands and said respectfully, "No star, it came by chance." He originally planned to summon Zuxing again in the afternoon, but he didn't expect that he would come over by himself. In this case, Lingtian's matter would be settled together. Thinking of this, Zhu Yi's eyes lit up, and then he said calmly, "Let him come in, promise." The guard cupped his hands, stood up and left the door. A moment later, another burst of hurried footsteps came. Zhu Crossing, wearing a moon-white prince uniform, stopped in front of Zhu Yi. "My brother Zuxing, I would like to pay my respects to your Majesty." Zuxing took 2 steps forward, cupped his hands and said loudly, "No gift." Zhu Yi waved to Zhu Crossing and said in a calm tone, "It just so happens that I have something to ask you for, brother Emperor. Do you have something to talk to about brother Chen?" Zhu Crossing was slightly startled. He had prepared a speech, but after hearing Zhu Yi's words, he could only wait and talk. "Your child should be 12 years old now." Zhu Yi looked at Zhu Crossing, sighed softly, and said with emotion, "On the 25th of this month, it will be the 13th year." Zuxing said slowly after a moment of silence. There was a hint of guilt in Zhu Yi's turbid eyes, and she sighed. "What happened back then was that I, as an elder brother, couldn't help you. Even in the imperial city, it has nothing to do with the imperial brother. No one could have predicted that something like this would happen." Zuxing shook his head, then changed the topic and asked, "Brother Huang just said that he had something to discuss with my younger brother. I wonder what it is. This should be good news for you." Zhu Yi looked at Zhu Crossing with a meaningful expression. "I don't understand, brother. Please let me know for sure." Zuxing still didn't know what he meant, so he raised his hand and asked. Zhu Yi didn't sell it and said directly, "I helped you find the child who disappeared 12 years ago." Boom. Zhu Yi's words resounded in Zhu Crossing's heart like thunder on the ground. At this moment, he felt like he was on a turbulent sea, with layers of turmoil rising up inside him, and the actual situation was even worse than it was. Boy, found it. China, who has been missing for 12 years, has really been found. Zhu Crossing took a deep breath and asked with a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, you just said that you have found China. Have you really found China?" "Well, your child has really been found." Zhu Yi said word by word. "Found it, my child. I found it." Zhu Yi's words actually meant dissatisfaction, but to Zhu Crossing's ears at this moment, it felt like 12 years. After a while, Zuxing finally managed to regain his composure. Excitement and joy alternated constantly in his eyes, but there was also a hint of worry and fear flickering in them. Because Zuxing is worried. Although I found him, I haven't been with him for 12 years. He doesn't know how his son is living, nor how his child is doing, nor what his China looks like now. He didn't even know whether his child was dead or alive. Brother Imperial, My son China. Where is he? How is he now? Zhu. Crossing. Please don't get excited. Zhu patted Zhu Crossing's shoulder and said softly, the child has not been wronged. He is living a good life now, and is very present. He is worthy of the blood of our Qian Dou royal family, and he is accurate. He said, you should have seen that child too. Have I seen it? Then, who is that? Zhu Crossing asked in a trembling voice. His mind was now in a mess, and he couldn't even think of who he had seen. He is the leader who won the Soul Master Competition Championship for our Heaven Dou Empire, and at the same time, I newly crowned the Heaven Dou Empire's king, the Ice King, Lingtian. Zhu looked at Zhu Crossing, and said word by word, King Xianbing, Lingtian, he is my son? Zhu Crossing asked in disbelief with his eyes widened. At the beginning, he had doubts about the young man with the same name as his son, and Douluo even took him there to confirm it. But at that time, because of the problem of martial arts, he did not think that the talented young man was the one who had disappeared for 12 years old son. Well, that's him. Zhu nodded. No, that's not right, Your Majesty. That child's martial spirit is a sword, and has nothing to do with the martial arts of my younger brother and my wife. How could he be my younger brother's son? Zhu asked hurriedly. This is the result of Qian's investigation. You will understand after you look at this, Zhu said, raising his hand and handing Zhu Crossing an investigative report. It was the same letter that Qian submitted after completing the investigation. Zhu's eyes kept flickering, and he finally took the investigative report tremblingly and spread out the paper. There was not much information written on it, only a few points in total. The first point, the same name. Point 2, the date of adoption is consistent with the date of disappearance. After reading these 2 points, Prince Snowstar still had doubts, because there was no discernible difference between the 2 points, and there was no problem that could be seen from this alone. However, as Zhu's gaze moved downward, his demeanor gradually changed. Point 3, point 4 until Zhu saw the last point, his eyes suddenly shrank. I accidentally saw that when Lingtian was practicing, a blue mark lit up between his eyebrows, which was similar to the mark when the prince was born. Blue mark. Zhu remembers it very clearly. When my son was born, there was indeed a blue mark between his eyebrows combined with the previous points. Zhu understood that Lingtian was most likely his long lost son, brother, emperor. One more thing, before Zhu Crossing could say anything, Zhu interrupted him with a wave of his hand. King has seen his royal jade pendant before, and it is the word Lingtian engraved on it, so you don't have to doubt his identity. Zhu paused for a moment and said with emotion, I never expected that, after searching for so many years, that child would actually be right under our noses and achieve such glory for our Qian Dou Empire. Chapter 273 Avalanche? Sorry WEN-039, not familiar. This sentence completely dispelled all Zhu's doubts. Lingtian is his child. Lingtian, China, it turns out it really is you. Suddenly, Zhu let out a long sigh of relief, plopped down on the ground, and laughed loudly without caring about the dignity of the royal family. Phew, with this breath, all the pent-up energy over the years was let out. Because his child was found. China, my King China. Not only was he alive, but he was also living a good life. He was ranked as a king at the age of 12, and he even won a championship for the Qian Dou Empire that had not been won for more than 10 years. He just smiled and laughed, but tears fell quietly. 12 years. 12 years. He stopped thinking about his son all the time, and today he finally got news about him. Seeing this scene, Zhu sighed. He understood Zhu's excitement. He has seen it all these years, and although Zhu never said it, he never gave up looking for his imperial brother. I don't know how long it took, but the excitement finally calmed down a little. His eyes returned to their former clarity, but there was still a hint of excitement deep in his eyes, and once he calmed down, Zhu also wanted to understand many things. For example, the imperial brother may have known Lingtian's identity before. At least before the king ceremony, or even earlier. The imperial brother already knew that Lingtian was his son, and that the blood of their Qian Dou royal family flowed in him, winning the championship in The Soul Master competition is a great joy, and it is also an outstanding achievement for the Qian Dou Empire point. But this alone is not enough to be crowned a king point, because it is not that easy to confer the title of king. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to be awarded the title of king without the identity of the Qian Dou royal family point. The 3 previously conferred kings with different surnames all turned the tide when the country was in crisis. Compared with these, the champion of the Soul Master competition is nothing. Even with the help of Zhu King, Zhu Yi would not agree to the canonization of a prince. Being able to be conferred a marquis is already the highest title point, but with the Qian Dou royal family status, it is completely different. Compared with ordinary people who have many difficulties in conferring a throne, there is no problem in conferring a royal title when a member of the royal family leads the team to win the championship point. This can completely explain why Lingtian was awarded the title of king point. This is why Zuxing deduced that the imperial brother should have known Lingtian's identity earlier, but at that time, why didn't you tell yourself? Soon, Zuxing thought of something. If he remembered correctly, his child Lingtian had been adopted by Zuking in the prince's house since he was 6 years old, and he had studied in the Kibao glazed sect for several years. According to his investigation, the relationship between the two was like brothers, but now the relationship between him and Zuking is not so harmonious. Brother Huang accidentally mentioned something before adding it. Zuking has seen Lingtian's royal jade pendant before, so the prince should also know Lingtian's identity. Thinking of this, a strange color flashed in Zhu Crossing's eyes, and he thought, it seems that the emperor brother wants to use Qian to ease the relationship between himself and Zuking. So how should you choose Zhu Beng and Qian? This seems to be a single choice question. Just when Zhu Crossing had made his choice, Zhu Yi spoke again. Zhu Crossing, I know very well what happened between you and King. King's handling of things as a young man was too extreme in some aspects, and he may not have taken care of your feelings, my imperial brother. But now my physical condition is getting worse day by day. King has clear rewards and punishments. When dealing with state affairs, his ability is also obvious to all. I can hand over the Qian Dou Empire to King. Moreover, the child Lingtian is still brought up by King, and the relationship between the two of them is as close as brothers. So what do you think of my choice, my brother? I agree. King is indeed capable of taking on important responsibilities. As soon as he finished speaking, Zuxing immediately raised his hands in a gesture between his son and Zhu Beng. He made no hesitation in his choice. Who is Avalanche? Sorry, we are not familiar with him. It didn't matter whether he had children or not. The main reason was that after some serious thinking, he suddenly thought that Zuking was indeed more capable of assuming the throne than Zhu Beng. After all, everything is for the future of the Qian Dou Empire. I'm relieved if you think so. Zhu Yi smiled knowingly. Neither of the two brothers had any idea, but they both understood what the other meant. Right, Zhu. Yi suddenly remembered something, looked at Zhu Crossing, and asked, when the emperor came here just now, did he want to discuss something with me again? No, I just came to see the emperor. Zhu Crossing shook his head and said, the promise he had made to Zhu Beng had long been forgotten by him. One is his biological son, and the other is an unloved prince. Which one is heavier, and which one is lighter, can be distinguished at a glance. If you find your son, who cares about your nephew? Zhu Crossing took a deep breath, looked at Zhu Yi, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and said, Your Majesty, where is Lingtian now? My brother. I want to go and see him. Yes, I forgot. Zhu Yi paused and said with emotion, that child should still be in the prince's mansion now. These two children really have a deep brotherly love. Even though I prepared a mansion for Lingtian, this child only glanced at it. Afterwards, he turned around and returned to the prince's mansion without even staying for one night. But this is also very good. From now on, the two children will be together inside and outside. Maybe the future of our Qian Dou Empire lies with King and Lingtian. Brother Chen feels the same way. Zuxing nodded, looked at the time, and then said, if your majesty has nothing else to do, I will leave first. Ah, you anxious to see the child? Zhu Yi waved her hand and said with a smile, go on. We haven't seen each other for 12 years. If it comes to me, I will be more anxious than you. I can't hide anything from your royal brother. Zuxing cupped his hands and said solemnly, "Then I will leave first, and come back another day to thank your majesty." Immediately, Zuxing quickly left the palace point. As soon as he walked out of the palace gate, Zuxing didn't even sit in the carriage, but directly summoned the swan spirit to possess him, and flew quickly towards the direction of the prince's mansion point. Although his soul power is not high, he is still faster than a carriage point now. Zuxing is just a father who wants to see his child as quickly as possible. As for aristocratic etiquette, everything has been forgotten at this moment point, but Zuxing, who was so excited, didn't know that the child he cherished so much had left Qian Dou city, and his trip to the prince's mansion was destined to be in vain point. But even so, Zuxing was still very happy. Chapter 274, The Sad Avalanche. At least he knows the news about his child, and when he returns to the Qian Dou Empire, the father and son will meet point. Similarly, Qian Renxue was also very happy point, because Lingtian helped her solve the last obstacle before the throne invisibly point. With the reconciliation between Zuxing and Qian Renxue, there will no longer be any voice against Qian Renxue's actions in the court of Qian Dou Empire point. The identity of the heir to the throne is now a certainty point, but some are happy and some are sad. Qian Renxue and Zuxing reconciled, which made both of them happy point. But for the avalanche, it was like a bolt from the blue. Without Zuxing's help, the avalanche that could not sing without a single hand would have been completely gone. He never thought that his most beloved imperial uncle would abandon him in a backhand. After entering the palace point in just one day, the situation in the court was turned upside down point. However, these things that happened in Qian Dou city have nothing to do with Lingtian, who has already set off point after a week's journey. The two arrived at Qianshu city point. Although the Qian Dou Empire has a vast territory, its domestic situation is complicated point. There are many principalities and kingdoms, and these countries all have their own kings. On weekdays, they only need to provide annual stipends to the Qian Dou Empire on a yearly basis. During normal times, they are not controlled by the Qian Dou Empire at all point. Therefore, because the power of these small countries is spread all over, the territory that the Qian Dou Empire can actually control is not very large point. In addition to a few cities within the empire, there are less than 20 other cities under its control point. However, the geographical location of these cities is very important point. Located in the north of the Qian Dou Empire, Qianshu city is one of these important cities. The city is located in the transition zone between the Qian Dou Empire and several major principalities. It has an advantageous geographical location. Therefore, the city is guarded by elite soldiers of the empire. The pedestrians coming and going at the city gate reveal the bustle of the city. They can hear it even outside the city wall point. To the lively shouts in the city point. The destination of this trip, Qianshu College, is located more than 10 kilometers outside Qianshu city point. There are beautiful mountains and clear waters, and few people disturb you point. Looking at the gradually darkening sky, Lingtian and Chengxi decided to rest in the city for one night and wait until early tomorrow morning before setting off for Qianshu College point. Anyway, we are going to Qianshu College soon, so there is no need to worry point. Entering Qianshu city point. Entering the city, it was bustling with people point. The sound of hawking along the street is also endless. As one of the important cities that the Qian Dou Empire fully controls as the only way to connect the Qian Dou Empire to the major principalities, the commercial development of Qianshu city has also received strong support from the empire. Therefore, the city area is not as good as the imperial capital Qian Dou city, but in terms of prosperity, it is not inferior in any way. There are often people on the streets. I saw many business travelers walking up and down the streets with carriages filled with goods, and because it was close to Qianshu College, girls wearing the uniforms of Qianshu College could often be seen in the city point. Lingtian looked at Chengxi, who was clenching his palms tightly together, smiled gently, and said, "Sister Chengxi, are you nervous?" "Yeah." Chengxi nodded and sighed. "I haven't seen my sister for more than 20 years. Until now, I feel like I'm in a dream, even a little scared." "Eat a candied horse on a stick." Lingtian handed Chengxi a candied horse on a stick and comforted him. "Relax a little. When you see Shubinger at Qianshu College tomorrow, you should be able to get news about your sister." "Thank you, Lord." Chenzi nodded gently and took the candied horse. I don't know whether it was because of Lingtian's words or the effect of the candied horse, but when Chenzi took a small bite to take one, her nervousness slowly calmed down. Okay, let's find a hotel quickly and relax and have a good night's rest. Because there are many business travelers coming and going. There are also many hotels in Qianshu City Point. After walking for a while, the two of them found a nice hotel and immediately checked into 2 high-end rooms. They said goodnight to each other and then went back to their rooms to rest point. Although the journey for a day didn't consume much physical energy, Lingtian was still a little tired mentally. Lying on the soft bed, Lingtian's thoughts were floating point. Now that the matter of killing the palace has been resolved, the current goal is to raise the soul power to Soul Emperor. By then, the first floor of the Ice Temple should be unlocked. Point at the speed of his cultivation, he should be able to be promoted to the Soul Emperor within a year without any external force. 1 year is acceptable. According to the original time calculation, there are still 5 years left. Point. Even if you estimate conservatively in the past 5 years, you can at least reach Soul Saint Point. Coupled with the Ice God's inheritance in the far north, it should be possible to upgrade to the Contra level. So Lingtian does not plan to use Ice Marrow to increase his soul power now. Point at that time, it is also time to add a soul ring to the second martial soul point. Regarding the second martial soul, Lingtian had already planned that all the soul rings on the Golden Dragon King's martial soul should be 100,000-year-old soul rings combined with the sharing of soul bones. Soul Douluo should be able to withstand the influence of a 100,000-year soul ring. Point. As for how to find the 900,000-year soul beasts, Lingtian said it was very simple. Point. It's not only found in the Star Forest and the far north. Don't forget that there are also 100,000-year-old spirit beasts in the vast ocean, and among them is the deep sea demonic whale king that is infinitely close to 1 million years old. Point. So there is no need to worry about the soul ring issue. Point. The main task now is to secure the throne of the Qian Dou Empire. Point. With his own intervention, there should be no more problems with this change of throne, right? After thinking about it, Lingtian fell into a deep sleep. Point. In the blink of an eye, it's the next day. Point. Lingtian and Chenxi found a restaurant at random, and after having breakfast, they left the city and headed straight for Qianshu College. At their speed, they arrived in front of Qianshu College in less than half an hour. There is a huge arch directly in front. Point. The arch is blue, and the plaque above reads for huge characters, Qianshu College. Qianshu College is built in a wide field. Point. There is a cool lake inside the college. Even if you stand outside the gate of the college, you can still see the beautiful lake surface sparkling in the sunlight. Point. In front of the college gate, several beautiful girls wearing uniforms walked by from time to time. Point. As a senior Soul Master Academy in the Qian Dou Empire, and one of the 4 major Soul Master Academies, Qianshu Academy has a strong teaching staff, which is only slightly inferior to the Qian Dou Royal Academy. In addition to its strong teaching staff, Qianshu College also has its own characteristics in terms of admissions, or to be more precise, it is harsh. Point. Qianshu Academy will not accept students unless they are extremely talented. Point. Qianshu Academy does not accept martial arts spirits that are not ice or water attributes. Qianshu College does not accept non-female students, and they must have a certain appearance. Point. The above characteristics are summarized by everyone as 3 things. Chapter 275 Heaven Dou Empire, the King of Ice is visiting. And not only in terms of enrollment, even the teachers in the college are all women, and the dean is also a powerful female soul saint. According to gossip circulating in the Soul Master world, it may be that this female dean was once raped. Men have been hurt before, so they set such stringent requirements for college admissions. Of course this is just hearsay, no one knows whether it is true or false. Point. However, in the entire Qianshu Academy, there is indeed not a single boy who can be said to be full of yin energy. Sister Chenzi, let's go there. Lingtian turned his head and said softly, yes. Chenzi took a deep breath, tried hard to calm down, and followed Lingtian into the gate of Qianshu College. Point. As soon as Lingtian and Chenzi reached the entrance of the college, they were stopped by 2 female college guards. Stop, this is Qianshu College. Seeing Lingtian's handsome face, the 2 of them did not retreat like the others, but said seriously, if there is no invitation, the rest of the crowd will stop, especially the men. If there is nothing else, please hurry up. Leave. From the front of the college, Yu Chen, Z frowned, her beautiful eyes exuding coldness. She was in a hurry to see her sister now, but she had no time to tangle with them. Thinking of this, Chen Zi wanted to unleash the momentum of the title Douluo and force the two guards guarding the door back. In an instant, the two of them felt an icy chill envelope them. What level of soul master is this person? Such a feeling has never been felt even by their soul saint level Dean. Fortunately, Lingtian responded in time and grabbed Chenxi. Sister. Chenzi, leave it to me. The morning light calmed down, and the chill in the beautiful eyes gradually dissipated. At this moment, the two guards were so frightened that they were sweating. When the momentum disappeared, they staggered a few steps, panted heavily, and almost fell to the ground. The rest of their lives, how they felt just now. They were almost really going to die. This was what the two of them had just experienced intuitively. Who are you? One of the guards asked tremblingly. Give this to your dean, and tell them that the Heavenly Ice King of the Heaven Dao Empire is visiting. Lingtian looked at the two of them with calm eyes, and handed them his Heavenly Ice King's badge. Oh my god, Sky Ice King. The two of them trembled, and turned their heads, to look at each other in shock. After these few days, coupled with the deliberate spread of the Qian Dao Empire, the huge news that the Qian Dao Empire has newly granted a new king with a different surname has also reached Qianshu City. As employees of Qianshu College, they naturally knew about this matter, although they didn't know the specific information about Sky's King. They still heard of Sky's King's name. It turns out to be Mr. Sky's King. I was rude just now. Please wait a moment. We will inform Mr. Dean now. I heard that Lingtian claimed to be the newly crowned Heavenly Ice King of the Qian Dao Empire, and even took out a badge in a serious manner. Although Lingtian's bright clothes and powerful guards around him did not want to be fake, but in order to avoid any mistakes, incident, and for the sake of safety, the two of them still did not bring Lingtian into the college, and planned to wait until Xu Linglong, the dean of Qianshu College, came in person, before making any plans. Well, that would be troublesome. Although Lingtian saw through the meaning of the two people, he just smiled and nodded, not caring about their little thoughts, but stood at the door, and looked around. I'm just waiting for someone. No big deal. After all, this is the territory of Qianshu College, so we still have to save some face for others. Your Majesty, please wait a moment. After saying that they were going to inform Dean Xu Linglong, the two guards guarding the gate looked at each other, and one of them immediately turned around and flew towards Qianshu Academy. He also showed that his speed was not inferior to that of Soul Master, and flew towards Qianshu. Rush inside the college quickly. Seeing this scene, a strange color flashed in Lingtian's eyes. The strength of Qianshu Academy is pretty good. Even any of the guards who watch the gates have the strength of around the Soul Master. Sister Chenxi, don't worry. Lingtian turned his head, looked at Chenzi, who was obviously a little nervous, and softly comforted her. If she is really the one, then we will definitely be able to find her. Lord, I understand. Chenzi nodded, but his eyes were still fixed on Qianshu College. Lingtian didn't say anything. He stood at the door and waited quietly. During this period, several students from Qianshu College passed by the two of them. Without exception, they all looked at Lingtian in surprise. They were in Qianshu College, but they rarely saw men. Especially a young man as handsome as Lingtian immediately made these young girls excited, and told the news to other students. By passing each other like this, the news spreads. Many students of Qianshu College knew that a handsome boy appeared in front of the college. After a while, many students from Qianshu College gathered at the gate of the college to watch this handsome young man. From time to time, they whispered to their best friends around them. Some curiously guessed Lingtian's identity, and some even mentioned the above two things. This joking joke made several people blush and start joking together. So handsome. What's the matter, little girl? Are you in love? Do you want me to be a matchmaker for you? Go, go, go. Who wants you to tell me? So, you want to say it yourself, you damn girl. Let me deal with you. Wrong, wrong. Sisters surround her. After a few minutes, the noise suddenly stopped. Dean, the dean is here. The words just fell. The girls quickly retreated to both sides in an orderly manner, making way for a few people. to pass after a while. A beautiful middle-aged woman wearing a blue palace dress with long blue hair and a classically beautiful face followed the guards who left before with a graceful and dignified smile walked over here. Although Xu Linglang did not attend the knighthood banquet in Qian Dou city at that time. As the dean of Qian Shu Academy, she was a powerful soul saint, and her position in the Qian Dou Empire was considered high and powerful. She had also seen Lingtian, the newly promoted king of the Qian Dou Empire, had a portrait and royal logo, so as soon as he saw it, he quickly came out to greet this king with a different surname who had caused a lot of commotion in the Qian Dou Empire in recent days, because she was somewhat interested in this young prince. 12 years old young soul king. King Xianbing has a different surname, Wang Ju. Just from the name Xianbing Wang, we can see how much his majesty values him. I've seen him before. Sky's king, Xu Linglang put away her thoughts, cupped her hands towards Lingtian, and said with a smile on her face, "End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video."